Hello, everybody. James Rink here. I have Aaron on the line, and Aaron believes that he may have been involved in some kind of secret project, perhaps when he was younger. He's also had some unique experiences with our extraterrestrial, I guess you can call them, I mean, he calls them demons, you can call them friends, or whatever you want to call them. We're still trying to figure that out. So, Aaron, why don't you begin from the very beginning, wherever you think that may be?
Okay, yeah, that's great. Okay, yeah, well, I have to say I was 6 years old back in 1977, and the experience I remember was a street, it was Hudson Street, a place called Muskegon, Michigan. I lived on Hudson Street. It was a nice suburban neighborhood, practically no crime. It was looked like Mayberry. It was just a beautiful place. Still is, as a matter of fact. You can leave your doors open over there still right now to this day. I don't live there now. I live in Clearwater, Florida, but it's still the same way it was when I was growing up there. When I was 6 years old, I remember having these experiences. At first, it started off where it would look like a small gray. He was a yellowish opaque color. That's what he kind of reminded me of. He was like a yellowish white color, like a cream. But he didn't look gray to me. He looked creamish, like a light cream beige yellow, just kind of like a mild color though. He had black eyes, but at the time, Casper the Friendly Ghost was still real popular, and that's the way he looked to me. And I was only 6 years old, so in my head, I'm thinking I'm dreaming or if I'm having an illusion or something. But anyways, it offered me to go downstairs. It never moved its mouth, which was unusual. So I went downstairs with it. As I got out of the bed, it told me to come downstairs. I got out of the bed. When I went go down the hallway, it didn't see it. It didn't want to make itself known in that amount of space, I guess. Go through the kitchen, I didn't see it, but I seen it peek out at the edge of the staircase in the dark hallway leading to the basement, the one leading to the back door. It peeked for a second to see if I was coming, but when I got around the corner, just that quick, it wasn't even on the staircase, so it just skipped down the staircase however this thing's working. It's gone. I go walk down the staircase. When I look and turn, he's behind a water heater. He's behind it, and he comes up from behind the hot water heater. Underneath the staircase was a silvery disc object. It looked exactly like a flying saucer. That's exactly what it was. It was a saucer-shaped craft, but it was small. This thing lied to me, talking to me in my head. Now, need I remind you, I repeated the same story to my sister when I was 6 years old, when I was 7 years old, when I was 8 years old, when I was a teenager. I just kept repeating the same story so I would remember it. And she always remembered this story. I told her since she was 12 years old. And I guess I was doing it because I didn't believe I was crazy. Even at that time, I just had a hard time even believing it was real at first. Anyways, this object is levitating underneath the staircase. It's not moving. It's anchored. This creature tells me that it ran away from home. That's what it told me. It lied to me and told me that it was a child, but in fact, it was a gray. Which to me, I know for sure, and I know for sure that they're demons. Of course, people are going to disagree, but I'm pretty sure that's what they are. They're a form of demon. Demons are extraterrestrials because they're making themselves known in our dimension, in our presence. We can see them occasionally when they make themselves known. So they are actual extraterrestrials. But their origin, they're demonic in origin. Anyways, this thing tells me not to touch this craft because I'm amazed by this thing because there's no supports underneath it. I go to touch it. It was holding my body back physically with its mind, which that's very demonic. I'm trying to touch this. I got my hand out. My hands can't reach to it, and I'm steadily trying to push my hand towards this object. Eventually, I touch the object, and it rocks for a second. It goes right back in position, almost like something like they dialed and locked it right in. It won't move from the position, but it moved a little bit. It moved and it went right back in the same position, almost like a spring coil. As soon as I touched that thing, I got a sick, just a wave of radiation poisoning. Went through my whole body. excuse me, I'm just getting uneven. A wave of radiation. That's what it felt like. I just remember feeling this nasty feeling at the pit of my stomach, just like I was going to regurgitate, I was going to throw up. So from that point, it told me, it said, I told you so. Why did you do it? That's what it told me. It said, why did you do it? I told you not to do it. Which is, things talking to me in my head. I'm communicating back at it with my mouth, though. I didn't know to use my mind to talk to it telepathically. I would just speak outward. So after that incident, I went upstairs. My mother called to me, and when I came up the staircase, I was sweating all over the place, just sweating because of the radiation poison. I'm coming up the staircase. I'm stumbling up the staircase. She must have went to the bathroom that's right near my bedroom. So instead of her, when she went past the room, she probably look in there, glance, make sure kids in the room, because there is a window in the room. People heard stories about people opening the window. Parents always check on their little kids, just to make sure nobody come through the window and take their key because it's a one-level house. I'm in the bed. So I'm not in the bed. I'm coming staircase, excuse me. So she comes to look for me. So she goes downstairs. That's where we played. And a little bike would go around a circle in the base. So it was big enough. Oh, my baby, sweating. What's going on here? Oh my God, he's sick. So she puts me back in the bed. She gives me something to drink or something, and then she gets this humidifier, which I hated. I hated that humidifier. So like the humidifier had more mold in it than anything. So I ate sicker, which was anyway. She used the humidifier. By the time daytime came, I felt better by about 9:30 when I woke up. School's usually about 8 o'clock, but by the time I got up, it was about 9:30. I slept in. She didn't let me go to school. I felt better, but I still felt kind of crappy. I felt weak. Well, anyways, I didn't want to go downstairs anymore after what happened. I was afraid to go downstairs, so I wouldn't go downstairs anymore. And when I did, I figured I'd go during the day. I didn't see the creature again. Not too often. Like I'd see him sometimes. I'd have I don't know, but I'd walk down the staircase and something grabbed my ankle and tripped me on the staircase. I flew off the edge of the staircase and bust my head on the cement. It was a really bad blow. It happened every time. No matter how careful I'd be, even though there was a rail, it's like somebody was pulling me, and I'd fall down that staircase. And even though I was very agile, somebody was yanking me, and I'd have severe blows to the skull. So I got the hint this time. I wasn't cooperating or whatever they wanted, whatever it wanted. I just quit going downstairs. And the only reason I go downstairs is if company came over, then they wouldn't make themselves known. It wouldn't make itself known. So I'd be safe as long as I had a friend over. But if I went down and tried to go downstairs by myself, I'd get tripped. Something would trip my ankle through the backside of the staircase and just pull me right off of there and fall. So I'd stop going downstairs, basically, and then I just said, I'm not going down there anymore. I'd never go down. I've seen it peeking. I didn't have anybody talk to. You can't tell your mom that. Nobody's going to believe you. But anyways, the next day after the incident where I didn't go to school, there was a loud chopper sound. We went outside to the back door. We opened up the door. There's a helicopter over my house. Has numbers and letters. Starts off with a sequence of numbers, and then set off N, 6, something, and the rest I don't remember. I just remember the N and a 6, 4, and then a series of other numbers. I don't know why that chopper had those numbers underneath it. I forgot what those were for. I've seen those before in the 70s. Well, this would be late spring of 77. I was by my mom goes, oh, look at this chopper. This is amazing. Can you believe this chopper's out here in front of the house? Look at this. This chopper's over our house. Wow. I'm thinking, my mom's thinking they're going to have an air show, and so did I. But then they're waving at me. This guy's sticking his head out of the chopper on the side, and they're waving at me like, hey, there's that kid. Whatever they're doing, they're involved with this crap. I said, okay, right away, that's not normal to have a chopper over your house in the middle of suburbia in broad daylight on a sunshiny day, and there is no air show at the time. But they do have air shows, but this had nothing to do with the air show. So I'm thinking, what in the world is going on? I try to tell her, she's just ignoring me. She thinks I'm just right. That was the thing in the basement with Casper. She just ignores me. I said, okay, just forget about it. I avoided going to the basement, but instead of them, they couldn't get to me to go down there anymore. So every time I go to sleep, they found another way to get at me. I go to sleep, and then they take me astral-wise. It was just like if you were physically with them. It was even worse because they could do whatever they wanted to you. I wasn't getting any sleep in between going to school because of these trips, these astral trips I was taking with them. I know you've heard people say that if you dream all night, you remember you dream all night? I'm sure you probably had nights like that where you just keep dreaming stupid dreams all night. You'd wake up in the morning completely exhausted because you wasn't getting any sleep from all the dreaming. You ever had that happen to you?
Yeah, definitely. And you feel
so you remember it happened. Like, you can't remember what you're dreaming about, but my stuff wasn't dreams. I was actually being placed somewhere else in an astral form. Like, oh, we got a way to get to you. That's the way it felt. Well, anyways, I'm in this craft with two grays. The one main gray that first made contact with me, and then the second gray. He wasn't interacting with me as much, but he was the one who was violent towards me. Well, it's got a panoramic view, just like everybody else says. So other people have been abducted, seen the same type of view I've seen, flown in the saucer-shaped craft. Many people have. So it's the same panoramic view. They had these small, like a dexterity test that you do with your hands, and they make me sit at this table. At first, this was what they first were doing, and I'd do these little dexterity tests. They make me drop something in left, right, and twist it around and drop that in there, and they make me do it. And then when it wasn't coming out right, the one gray would attack me. He physically beat on me, and it was painful, just like if you were really getting whooped. It hurt. So I was terrified of that other gray, and then the other one would stop it, leave him alone. This went on, I said, every night it went on. I had nobody to talk to. I couldn't talk to my mother. I could deal with talking to my sister at this time about it yet. So it went up for probably about 2 or 3 months is what this was. Right before summer, I'd say about maybe 2.5 months worth of this crap, 3 months. Well, anyways, the dexterity test crap kept going on in the attacks from the other gray. And then the one would play, they're basically playing good cop, bad cop. One gray would be a good gray, and the other would he'd stop them, and the other one would be violent towards me. So to try to make me bond with the other one. So I would swing more towards that one because the other one they hated me. It was an op. That's the way I seen it. It was set up on purpose, just to so they could get whatever effect they wanted out of it, so they'd be more effective in their training. That's what was going on. I knew it was government involvement because of the helicopter. I already knew that at 6 years old I was being used. I asked these grays, stop coming and picking me up. I need to get some sleep. At night, I have to get up for school in the morning. They'd laugh at me and say, we're coming back to get you again tomorrow at night. We're coming back to get you. Then they'd laugh like it was funny. I'd just be like, and I'd be tired all day in kindergarten. I remember it. Mrs. Damagelis, the Greek lady. She was a beautiful teacher. I remember at Glenside School off Hackley. Every day, this thing would keep coming. Every night, they'd keep repeating the same crap. So eventually, it progressed to. They finally decided it was time to put a headpiece on my head. They put this it was like a silverish gray, light gray color. They'd set it on my head. I'd wear this piece on my head, and they think left. I think left, think right, think up, think down, and that's what I was doing: left, right, up, down. And I was controlling the vessel. So now we know it's symbiotic technology, where the headpiece controls the vessel. That's what was happening. That's exactly what I was doing. Wasn't supposed to know this. I've been telling the same story since 6 years old to my sister, who was 12 at the time, just to make sure I wouldn't forget it. So anyways, I got really good at this by this time, but the attacks would still happen. I can't remember exactly how many attacks I had to say, about maybe 9, 10 times. Oh, you still there?
Yeah, go on. So, all right.
Okay,
so...
Yeah, so these attacks... What'd you say now?
When you say these attacks, you mean like the Greys were picking you up or doing astral visitations?
They were doing astral visitations and dexterity training, and then symbiotic headpiece training after the initial training with those little red plastic pieces. That's what they had me doing first. Once I was trained with those plastic pieces to get my guy, and I got those done quick eventually. Once they knew I was fast enough to do that, they started putting the headpiece on, and I would control the vessel. And they teach me out in the atmosphere. They teach me left, right, up, down. That's what I was doing, and whatever else, how to just to slow it down, speed it up. I was doing all that, which is slightly vague, but not vague enough that I do remember the sensation of using the symbiotic headpiece and it being placed on my head and him standing in front of me and me controlling the vessel with this piece on. Well, one day, there started to be a lot of the symbiotic headpiece training. This was going on over and over and over again, and I started advancing more into it. Eventually, an accident happened. They put the headpiece on me. I guess they wanted to go a little bit further than where they usually go from off the Earth area. The craft was real. I wouldn't have died in the craft with them because I was only there in the astral shell. They're able to bring the astral shell out. However, they're able to create a shell, it looks like it makes me a physical living being, bring part of my soul with me. And there I am, but I'm really at home sleeping in the bed. Well, if this craft would have crashed, they would have died in there. And I would have woke up at home, but they would have died. Anyways, it seems like to me they got themselves caught in an asteroid belt. And I remember it very clearly. I'm not sure if it was part of the training simulation. And I still to this day do not believe it was, because the simple fact is, when they put the headpiece on me, the asteroids just popped up out of nowhere. They just popped up out of nowhere. And I remember them racing around about me, and I remember the gray, who was violent towards me, going to act like he was going to take the headpiece off, and the other one pushing the other one back and telling him, if you take this headpiece off, we're going to lose link control. We're going to lose our link to the vessel, and we're doomed. That's what he told them. So that's an offbeat conversation they're having with their self that I could hear telepathically picking it up. I heard it as clear as day. These creatures were panicking. They couldn't take the headpiece off, because if they did, they wouldn't have no control over the vessel. They were just going to run directly into an asteroid and get disintegrated. They knew it. So I don't think it was not. I don't think that was part of the training. It was a mistake. I mean, it was a fluke. Anyways, I remember going through a bunch of rocks and them coaching me while I'm going through these rocks, and they're scared. I remember the one pacing back in front of me, and he was actually physically scared. He actually made a sound like, they got little light voices, the sound you hear. But it's they have conversations similar to the same type of conversations we have. I heard it as clear as day. It sounds just like same type of reasoning and everything. They're just as wicked as real humans. They have same type of behavior on that level. I heard it. So they don't show emotion too often, but this time, because they thought they were going to die, that's the first time I ever, even to this day, even later on have I heard them act like that. That was because they thought they were going to die. They really get scared for real too. When we went through the astral belt, I controlled the craft. I don't know if I was blasting the rocks myself too. I thought I was. I was controlling some of those laser-guided weapons, and they were shooting plasma balls out like laser, and it was hitting all the rocks. And out of fear, I was doing it because they told me we were going to die. Well, I physically thought I was there, so I didn't know I could have creamed them by just not reacting at all and just letting them crash and burn. I just would have woke up at home. They'd have been screwed though. Should have did them like that, but I didn't, because I thought it was real, which it was, but it wasn't real in the sense that, you know what I mean? But anyways.
Well, why do you think they let you control the craft to begin with?
That was, I figured it out. I knew when I seen that helicopter at my house, I knew for sure that was the government, because of the way, I know they number all those helicopters. When those helicopters are landing, I don't know if they I think they probably had, there was a large helicopter. I don't know if they put those numbers and letters, start sequence of letters, and then the sequence of numbers underneath the helicopter. N64 something, 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 like that. Like 8 letters, or two to one letter and 7 numbers, something like that. Like they're registering them, so they know what's what and what is what. That was the government. That's the way I seen it, because I knew they were involved with it. Because what are you doing at my house the next day after the incident? You just happen to pop up. My little bit of life I've been around hadn't been around that long. Hadn't been on the earth that long. You know, you go from seeing this thing in your basement, all these weird happenings just in one night, and then being sick and physically not being in school the next day, and actually coming up the staircase and then coming outside seeing this helicopter. The government was training people. They were going after children. There was a joint military alien training for symbiotic technology for aware to control their crafts, to get some humans that were going to be up to par to run these crafts in the future, people they were going to pick for these operations. And children are more adaptable to it, and then they were able to do it. The way they were able to do it was to sneak and do it in a sneaky way. I'm sure there's some people's parents actually who were in the military or whatever, or part of the secret society families or whatever, that actually had their kids involved with these programs knowingly, because they wanted to be part of something that was big.
Well,
my father was a. What's that now?
Did you ever see any other children? And then you can go back to your thing about your father.
Eventually I did. Just a little bit further. Like I'll get to that part, right? Well, after the incident happened, basically after the incident happened, when we made it through the belt, they were so happy. They were literally cheering almost. The two of them. They were just so happy that they didn't die in there, and they were shrugging me on my back just like if you shrugged a football player for making a good football play. They were so happy that they didn't perish in that craft. They were pushed like, oh man, we can't believe you're such a, I remember that. It was crazy.
Well, so basically these were like Greys that were cheering?
Those were the 2 Greys that were cheering that survived the asteroid belt that just come out of nowhere.
Then what is this? What did it sound like when they cheer? Do they make a sound? Or is it telepathic?
It wasn't like they were cheering like, yeah, they're just like, oh, you did such a good job. You're so good. It's kind of like that. It wasn't like a...
But were they talking with their mouth, or was it telepathic?
They were telepathic.
Oh,
okay. But
it
was just as clear as it was just as clear as if you heard them talking with your mouths. No, their mouths never move. They don't do that. They never did. That's another thing I told my sister right off the top. They were talking to me telepathically, but I spoke out in the open. I didn't use telepathy to speak to them at the time.
All right. And what about your father? But they were
very happy.
You were saying something about your
father.
What's
that
now? You were saying something about your father?
Yeah, the father was in special forces. He was a really high level special forces black beret type deal with a sword and a shield and a sword in the hat. And he was fighting in Vietnam, and his groups of soldiers that he was with were wiped out twice. And they could never kill him. They used to sneak into villages and cut people, sneak into military installations and kill everybody from, say, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. They kill everybody in the whole base. They go from barrack to barrack and kill everybody in there without nobody knowing. They were cutting everybody's throat in their sleep, he told me. They knew who he was. They found out who he was. They knew his social security number. Somebody obviously was a snitch in the Pentagon. Somebody was a snitch somewhere in the military. They knew. I don't know how would you know all that information? Maybe some of the girls, probably some of the women, because he did say he messed around with a couple women over there more than once. They messed around with those girls because they were beautiful. They looked like dolls, China dolls. So they messed around with some of them.
So
obviously,
were you being groomed because of your father's position? Did they groom you at all?
That's what I think. But he never communicated with me at the time because he had another family. But I think he was afraid, so he stayed away from me on purpose. He didn't want to have anything to do with me on purpose. That's kind of what I was seeing. Why? Because of they were threatening to kill his family. They had a hit out on him. They knew about his children. They didn't know about me, but they knew about the other. They knew about the other child he had, and me. They didn't know about me. I don't think they knew about the one he signed the birth certificate for. He had a relationship. He ran to my mother, and women are sucker for. He's a strong soldier with the black beret on, with the shield, with the sword and the shield. You know what I'm saying. They're gonna fall for that all day. They look really sharp in that outfit with the cords on the collars and everything. They're gonna get them left and right. So I can understand that. Well, I wouldn't be here. I'm glad it happened. But yeah, he stayed away from me on purpose, and I kind of thought he didn't know anything about that stuff. But he was considered a super soldier because he could do things that were almost supernatural in combat. He was surviving stuff he was not supposed to survive. I believe they were intentionally, the CIA, the Pentagon, was intentionally compromising their positions on purpose to see who would come out on top, who would survive it. So sometimes, to do training, I believe they're actually compromising their own soldiers' positions on purpose to see how far they could push them, see what would happen, see what they could get out of it. They could, no matter how hard they tried to kill him, they never could.
Wow.
He went back 4 times. 4 times. Which they should have never allowed him to go that many times. But they did.
In Vietnam. 4 times in Vietnam.
4 times. Unheard of. I got documented proof. 4 times. 4 tours. Come back home, get bored, just take off and go again. Come back home, hated it, go back again. That's what he was doing. He couldn't stand, once you get that any of the excitement or whatever, he liked it. But he was considered a super soldier, a naturally born super soldier before he even came out.
Well, what about you? When you were a child, did you have special abilities?
No. Nothing. Not as a child, no. Not till there was some stuff I noticed after the fact. I was able to get a feeling for artifacts in the ground, and I could walk across the earth, walk across ground in the middle of the woods, and just start digging with a shovel and say there's something here. And I dig, and then a piece of French pottery came out of the ground from 1700s. Go to another spot, I dig, I just get a feeling, I dig, and a Winchester crate came out of the ground with no guns in it. This weird thing. I went and dug in the ground, and some French occupation coins proving that the French were occupying the territory from the 1600s or whatever just came out of the ground. So there was weird happenings going on. I was able just to get a feeling for stuff for no apparent reason. I just know there was something there. So, that was it seemed like it was an extended courtesy on purpose.
Well, did you ever see anybody? Did anybody ever follow you when you were a child? Any shadowy figures or even real people watching you? Anything like that?
Sometimes, along with the gray, I would see an all-black shadow that looked like a demon for real. Just like a black, literally like a black, just like shiny, not shiny black, just flat black, white eyes, white for the eyes with red. Literally. Sometimes I'd see that accompany the gray, but it would never make itself known. It stuck its head out where I could see it sometimes, and then I'd go to look for that thing, and it wouldn't be there. So there was other entities around, yeah.
Okay. So
not too often, but...
Go on.
What's it now?
Yeah, go on.
Let's say what you were saying. I was trying to listen to what you were saying.
Well, I was going to ask you, so what other experiences did you want to share?
Oh yeah, I was going to tell you. Well, after that happened, they had another meeting. We were at Groom Lake. This was the last known thing I remember happening as a child. We were at Groom Lake. I noticed it was Groom Lake later on, years later, because I know we were in a gigantic crater. We were facing. If you were looking at a map, if you were looking down at a satellite image of Groom Lake, I would be on the east side of the crater. That's where I was at. Just like if they had some docked out of there, I was on that side. I was not on the west side of the crater. We were all seated on the right hand side of the east side of the crater. In the center, there was seating that they set up. They were having an award ceremony, literally a ceremony. They had other people from other countries. They wore different colors. there was kids there. And I noticed that in this project, all these kids who were there were all done the same way I was done. None of us had ever seen each other before or even knew that this was an operation on that level. That was the first time any of us had seen each other. I was seated with kids dressed in white, like NASA white, which is representative of America. And even the adults, they had like a Battlestar Galactica vessels, man. There was probably some that were bigger, but there was one that was small, about the size of a house, that I seen 4 individuals, a black man, a Native American, Italian-looking man, and a Anglo-Saxon, German-looking individual. There's 3 of them in this one particular craft that they flew themselves. I actually spoke to them. I received an award and a standing ovation, whatever you want to call it, for decisive action during the incident that happened with the asteroid belt. That was an actual achievement. They all clapped. I remember as clear as day for what I did. Nobody else had went through that. I was the only one during the training that actually had to use their training to survive. And I was like one of their star pupils. Now I say that maybe it was all set up to make me believe that this was, but I still do not believe that. I just didn't want to accept the fact that I was receiving accolades. What's that now?
Go on. I was going to ask you, do you recall how you got to this facility, or is that memory not?
The Grays brought me. The Grays brought me in the saucer with the panel. They brought me in the saucer there. And dropped me off at Groom Lake, and during the ceremony, they were not present. Only humans were present. They dropped me off. They were in a waiting area somewhere. They did not want to see them during that time. They did not want to. What's that now?
Why not? Why weren't they present? Do you know? Have you thought about that?
They're faced. That's the feeling I'm getting. I'm pretty sure of that. I guess they didn't want nobody to have an adverse reaction after the training. They wanted to bring it back down to a human level, bring it back to an accolade level, bring it to an institution level. There was people dressed in red. I remember them being like from Japan. I seen foreign children. I seen a UK group of individuals. I believe they were wearing like a blue color. There were different groups. This place was huge. They were span out at this ceremony. I'm sure the Russians got satellite images of the actual, you know what I mean? The actual thing that actually, I'm sure they probably got images of it.
So it took place outdoors.
What's that now?
It took place outdoors?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
It took place outside.
This was in Groom Lake. It was in Groom Lake.
Yeah, but it wasn't like inside a building. It was outside.
No, it was outside in the crater. Outside.
Oh, I see. Okay.
In the crater. We were literally in the crater outside, facing the east side of the crater, in the center of it.
But then again, maybe it could have been Mars. How do you even know?
No, it was not. It was Groom Lake.
Okay.
Because I remember when I approached it, I seen it when we approached it. And I seen it I seen pictures of satellite images later on and photographs of Groom Lake, and it's the exact place. It was a crater. That's the exact crater. It wasn't the moon, because we wasn't using any breath. You need oxygen up there, and we were breathing regular air outside.
Do you have an idea?
That's how I know.
What year this was? What could have been?
It was just right after school ended. Like the same week school was ending, it was ending. Like they timed it just right. They messed with us, like I say, from April, May. It went up for about 2 months straight, maybe 3 months. I have to say March, April, all of May, and then it ended in June. And that's when the ceremony thing took place. And when I spoke to the one guy who was what I say looked like he had an East Coast accent, so I'm thinking he was Italian. He used one of the crafts that I was speaking of. That looked like a little small Battlestar Galactica small carrier or whatever. I asked them for a ride in it. They brought the vessel up, and I thought we were going to leave for a minute and come back, and they wasn't able to do that because they were there. You know, we went up in the air, and that particular vessel there, we went up and came right back down. And I remember being upset with them. Actually upset, like, man, that was all you're going to say? Oh, that's all we can. We can't take it. You can't go anywhere. We can't. We're not authorized. So we could just do the one thing. That was it. I said, oh, okay. I said, I don't want to leave with them again. I don't want to leave with that gray because he keeps attacking me. So I'm sorry. They said, can't you drop me off at home? I said, no, we can't do that. I'm sorry. And the other two guys wouldn't speak. They were quiet. I said, well, what am I supposed to get out of this? He says, well, you're going to get some sleep now. It's over. And I said, what am I going to get out of the future? What's it going to mean to me? They basically turned me into a little military dude. And I started asking real questions. Like, what is in it for me? He said, you can go to officer training school now and become an officer. You can go to West Point. Now you can be a military officer. That's what you got going. You can do anything you want to do now. The doors are open for you to do anything now after this. You're a hero.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like you were groomed.
I was groomed.
Yeah.
So the next day, okay, the Grays dropped me back off. I did not want to get in there, and that other Gray attacked me worse than he ever attacked me and told me, you think that you're a hero. You think that you're somebody special. It was kicking me all over the place from there. And the other Gray jumped up and literally attacked the mess out of this Gray. Literally attacked him. Was beating the mess out of him. He told me to join in, and I kicked this Gray over and over, and I was able to, I guess after the one Gray attacked him, he became weaker. I was able to whoop the crap out of him. Either that was a simulation too, which I doubted. Well, he whooped the crap out of him. I remember just having so much rage in him from attacking me so many times. I stumped and kicked that Gray as many times as I could. I tried to kill him. I just remember kicking it so it wouldn't get back up. I just remember kicking him. He never moved again. Well, after that, the next day, I finally I woke up in the morning. I remember being so happy when I was playing football with another friend in the backyard. And I tried to tell them about it. I told them, I'm an astronaut. I'm this and I'm that. I did this and I was in training. I received an award. I'm this and I'm that. I'm going to be a military. I'm telling these other kids this. They're looking at me like they almost believe me. Like one of them, like, really? Yeah, well, we're little, so they don't know what to think of it. They're probably like a year younger, maybe a year older. You know, 6. I'm 6, so some are 7, some are 4. You know, come on now, or 5. They don't know. Okay, you know. And so I realized, no, this isn't gonna work. I don't have anything to prove this. I have nothing. I didn't bring anything home. So like, well, I don't have anything. I don't have my clothes, nothing. I'm thinking, wow, you know, okay. You're fragmenting now. I'm thinking in my head. I said, no, but it happened. Well, anyways, I do remember I thought I seen some vehicles sitting by my house, like a van. It just sit there. And other people think the van who were drug dealers on the block, like, you know, they quietly deal weed back then because it's illegal. And they were all really quiet in that suburban neighborhood. But I think a couple of the older guys thought that they were being watched by the government, by the police, by the state police for dealing weed or something, you know what I mean, whatever they were doing. Because there's a couple guys in there that were rock and roll motorcycle guys that I knew that were grown people. I think they thought the vans were there for them. But a couple times I remember seeing unmarked vans by my house. And there was other trips with the same Gray would come and get me. And he'd make sure he was always peaceful towards me then. And then I remember another Gray being with him. I asked, is that the same Gray? Is that him? And he told me, no, it's not him. And I'd look at him and say, oh, look, these particular ones look alike. I'd sit there, I was just staring at him like, I know, I hope that ain't you again. He was working in buttons in the craft, and he never touched me. That one never did. He never attacked me again at the time. And I remember controlling the vessel again with the headpiece on again. I remember the Gray asking me a lot of questions. Asked me, did I want to continue going places with him, continue training or whatever. I told him, no, I don't have anything else to do with this anymore. He said, can I come and pick you up every now and then? You can come fly, we can go over the plane. I said, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And every now and then he'd come scoop me up, and I'd look out the window at the earth. And I remember just being like marble blue, just beautiful. I remember seeing the stars and everything. I'd sit there, I'd seen the moon and the stars right by each other, like the closest view you're ever gonna get. And looking at this beautiful panoramic view out of the window, and I just stand there and just look at it. And he'd sit there in his chair, and I'd be in a chair, and we'd have a conversation. I remember that clear. And I remember like a couple more of the trips I remember something happening or something again, and him asking me advice, and I was actually relaying information back to this gray that was actually usable information, that they were taking the stuff that I was telling them and using it. They were implementing what I was telling them, and I don't know what that was about. I can't remember that. But I remember, like, they had turned me into a military soldier practically. I remember relaying information back to them. They were asking, what did I think about this? And I said, well, I think you should something or another or something, whatever it was. And they said, okay. And then they were actually doing it. So that was very peculiar, but it was very, very peaceful after the fact.
Okay.
Which that could have been part of the whole op.
Aaron, when I asked you what year, you didn't mention. You said the month. Could you give us the year?
That was about 3 months straight. That training was. It was 1977.
Okay. And
it was. I believe it was March, all of March, all of April, all of May, and it ended the same week school ended.
Okay. And are you
just like if you got? Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the term programmable life forms, PGLFs?
No, but that's the way I felt about the other gray. I thought he was the same one that had reprogrammed his thinking.
Because basically,
like he couldn't remember.
Yeah, well, it appears that the government was able to get access to cloning technology, and they cloned these grays, and they used them as like a form of avatar to interface with, I guess you could say, contactees or abductees, because apparently the government was abducting humans using grays that were programmed by humans to do the abductions. Does that make sense? So it was all government.
Yeah, that would make sense because the tall grays use the little grays as workers too and program them, and the tall grays have connection with the Aryans, with a group of Aryans who probably taught them how to program them or gave them a group of them to program as long as they could continue their abduction of adults and children, whoever else what they were doing. But they were supposed to keep numbers of who they were abducting as long as they gave them a list. But that wasn't working out too good because they were hard-headed and childish at times. They do whatever they want. You couldn't really tell them what to do. You know, they'll follow certain criteria, but even we go outside our criteria. So they were doing the same thing. They have similar behavior as humans.
They were supposed to give the government a list of people they were abducting, but what was going on was that the government was taking that list and then abducting these same people and then taking them to bases and monkeying around with their memories and their brain and experimenting on them. So that's what...
After the fact. Well, that was all set up anyways.
Okay.
That was all part of the deal anyways. That wasn't the problem. They don't care if the government, if our own military industrial complex is manipulating their own people, their own Americans or humans. They could care less about that. We just don't want outsiders, extraterrestrials, doing whatever they want on our soil. When we're trying to have some level of control, that's what that comes into play, you know.
All right. Well,
it doesn't make everything different.
some of these tall grays, they don't have a heart connection, so they don't really. I mean, they view a human like maybe as a lab rat. You know, a scientist.
I don't know. The gray I was with was never reprogrammed. I believe he was probably I believe right now he's still alive. And actually, he's very powerful. He was super high ranking. He's never been programmed at all, I don't believe. I believe he's some type of original. And maybe he went up in rank or whatever. And I was actually bonded with this gray. I actually was having conversations with him. He was actually bonding with me. Never was violent towards me, that particular one.
Okay.
Never was.
Now, you said...
He was trying to advance me for real. He was actually advancing me on purpose. He took his work seriously. He was actually trying to create a connection between the two. He was actually doing it.
Advancing?
He was taking the job seriously. What's that now?
What do you mean by advancing? Is that where you said going to West Point?
He was doing his work what he was supposed to do. He was advancing in his operation that he took his work very seriously, and he did what he was supposed to do, and above and beyond, I believe.
Okay, so now
he kept scooping. What's it now?
Oh, he kept scooping you up.
He kept scooping me up.
Okay.
After the fact, after the training was over, he wasn't supposed to. That's why I kept seeing that van. I remember the color. It was a Ford Econoline van with it's like that lighter, funky brown color, but the lighter bronze.
All right, so
you know what I'm talking about? That bronze color.
Yeah. So you saw this? Was this van parked outside your house?
The van was always parked up in front of the house off and on.
And that's how they were picking you up?
That was the FBI.
Well, how do you know it was FBI?
Because that's the van they usually drive. You know, the FBI always drove those kind of line vans. They're still using them right now. You know, they always stick to the Ford products pretty much. But you might see them in the Chevy Suburbans or Yukons now. But they still use those Ford Econoline vans. They got a fleet of those, too. At the time, they were exclusively using nothing but mostly Ford.
All right.
Ford vans for, you know.
So did...
they were monitoring... What's that?
They were monitoring you?
They were monitoring the extra visits between me and that gray because those are unauthorized visits, but they were monitoring the visits. So they were still giving them that gray, was still giving them feedback. He actually has a name, which I don't know his name. I never asked. But he actually has a name. I know he's not dead. Because according to a person who is a Freemason that I spoke to, those grays, some of those grays, they live to be 800 years old. And this book is not available to the general public. It was only for high-ranking Masons. And I was told specifically that they live to be 800 years old.
Wow.
So I'm pretty sure he's not dead.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they live longer than normal. Way longer than normal.
Now you said that you were going to go to West Point. Whatever happened to that?
Well, you know, when you tell somebody in an astral environment and they create an astral shell, which is they're able to materialize a person. I don't know exactly how they do that, but they're able to do it. You actually have a conversation with the ones who are actually in the physical. I believe that place would be categorized. Isn't that Area 51 where Groom Lake is at? Is that right?
What about Area 51?
Isn't that Groom Lake?
Yes. Well, Groom Lake is...
It's part of Groom Lake.
Area 51.
Okay, it's part of it.
It's not really a lake. It's more like a dry sand bed.
Yeah, that's the one. Those guys were physically there, the ones who flew those crafts. There was a brother, he flew in it. There was a white guy, like I told you, the Italian, and then an Italian-looking guy, a brother, and a completely white guy. I don't consider Italians completely white, but they are. But they look a little tannish looking, you know what I mean? They get past the Native Americans. It wasn't for him opening his mouth up with that East Coast accent he had. But he was highly intelligent because he was controlling that craft. And the brother, he never said, he was trained not to say one word. The other two never spoke. And these vessels, the smaller vessels, they fly in threes. Even the Americans fly in threes. The three is the three different things. One is propulsion system, one is guidance, and one is like weapon system or something, or diagnostics. And they all, even the Greys operate the same way. They operate in threes. Now, when you talk about the larger vessels, I'm figuring they have like three main directors, and they have three different people underneath them. You know what I mean? A whole group of individuals underneath. Like you got pilot, there's a whole bunch of people that pilot, just like Star Trek. Same exact environment.
And how many fingers?
Like
how many fingers does a Gray have?
You know what? I never paid no attention to that. I never did.
I think it's
I
3.
never looked. I never paid attention. All I ever would look at is their face. I know it looked like they had a nose, they had 2 little dots. That's all I remember. And I'd never pay attention to their hands. I'd look at their eyes or their face. I never did. I was always listening to what they were saying. I wasn't even seeing them as, it got to the point between me and that gray, the relationship that got to the point, I didn't even see him as a gray anymore. I thought he was just I see him just as another person.
And did you ever tell any of your friends or your family what was going on?
Just my sister.
And
My
what was her
I always told
reaction?
her. She couldn't believe it. She believed me, but she just couldn't believe what I was told. Like, this is unreal.
Okay.
Okay, I did have another experience after all this was over with that was very interesting. I was in an astral environment. I was brought to a park where kids were playing. And I looked, this guy, he goes, I need to talk to you. He goes, I brought you here to this park so you wouldn't be afraid of me when I spoke to you. So he basically created a construct. He was a black guy, and I'm a brother. He created a construct. That means the place where I was at. He created that. And he told me, I'm you. I'm you when you get older. And I come to warn you that they're demons and not to trust them. Ever. And don't forget that I'm you. I am you. I come here to warn you about the future. They're going to destroy the whole earth and they're in on it. Don't trust them. That's what he told me. When I realized now, I was wearing all black clothes. It was me. Years later, that was me. I don't know how that worked, but I was talking to myself as an adult. I was talking to myself as a 6-year-old. And I came back as an adult, talking to so he went back in the time. That clothes he was wearing from the future, a black fleece turtleneck sweater, but a fleece kind of like a commando style one, or just I don't think it was a turtleneck. I think it was a flat sweater, but like a commando sweater with a fleece coat, black pants, and black shoes. And the clothes were modern.
Okay. Now.
And it was me.
Huh?
That was me telling myself to don't forget. He told me at 6, he said, don't you ever forget that I came to talk to you. I am you in the future. Do you hear me? That's what he told me. And I said, don't you ever forget. Please, 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 please get back with me. Please do not forget. You are not crazy. Everything that you went through was real.
All right.
It is not. He told me.
Well,
I told myself.
Okay, now I was wondering, going forward here, did you ever end up going to West Point?
Nope. By the time I was 10 to 11 years old, which was 6, so 7, 8, 9, 10, 4 years later, I seen the back of a National Geographic magazine. It said you could go to West Point Military Academy, young kids, and then graduate a military officer as an adult. You'd stay there till you're an adult, so you're 18 years of age, and you graduate as a military officer. And I just kept wanting to go. That was my goal. They wanted me to go. I picked up my mom's phone, opened up the National Geographic, set it on the kitchen table at 10 years old, and I called West Point Military Academy, and the general at the time, which we'll be able to look that up, he answered the telephone. I didn't go to the secretary, didn't go nowhere. It went directly to him, which was unreal. I said, my name is Aaron Evans. I told him where I came from. I told him I want to be a military officer. And I don't know if I mentioned anything. I don't think I mentioned anything. He knew who I was. He knew who my father was, Ernest Harris, who was a Special Forces Black Beret in Vietnam, a high-level Special Forces Black Beret. He goes, I know who your father is. Dude, told me that straight up. This is in broad daylight on the telephone.
Now, I know we talked about this earlier, and it's my opinion, and maybe it's yours too, that the reason why this phone number, obviously this is the phone number of the general, and that wouldn't be public. They would not publish that in National Geographic, obviously, I wouldn't think. unless there was maybe some kind of Mark Ultra going on, and maybe you were programmed through when you were taking Area 51 to be triggered by reading, or maybe the Greys inserted the idea into your mind to read this magazine, and they might have implanted that thought or the numbers.
No, it was the individual who was the Italian with the East Coast accent that flew in that small shuttlecraft. They let me go up once and come back down. They were the real humans. I was proud of them as soon as I met them. I wanted to be like those guys who flew in those crafts that were human. That was my goal. They said, well, you got to go special training for this. He said, oh, blah, 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 blah. You can go to West Point Military Academy and become a military officer. And one day, you'll even be a general. You can be a general one day. That's what he told me. West Point, you can go there now. You have an open door. You can go to any military academy you want to, and you will be. They're going to let you in the door automatically. All your schooling will be paid for automatically. It's already done. All you got to do is call. If your family lets you go, you're always set up to be able to go. He implanted the thought because he gave me my options. I wanted to know after what they did to me. I wanted to know what was I going to get out of this. You know, I have nothing to show for this. What are you going to give me in return? He told me that's what I was going to get.
Okay,
so I never forgot.
Yeah. So obviously you didn't go.
My mother wouldn't let me.
Yeah.
She went crazy. She said she literally went ballistic on me. I tried again another time. By the time I was 11 years old, 11 and a half, almost 12, I tried again. Same guy on the phone, same general. It's like my telephone line, they knew what my telephone number was. It went directly to his office. Like they were waiting for me. Like my number was on a list of numbers that would go straight to his office. That's for sure.
Okay.
And they were waiting. Well, there was more than one of us. I'm sure the other ones got their hookup.
All right.
But I mean, I remember.
Let's move on now. I think I'd like you to share the experience you had with the mass abduction. Why don't you just go?
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and just start with that? Take us from the beginning.
Okay, so now we're going to go from 1977 to 1989. I'm 17 years old. Where I live on Hudson Street still, 2260 Hudson Street. Remember, it's clear as day. Had a friend who stayed on Barney Street, which is adjacent. It's a crossroad. Skip, a friend of mine. It was July 5th, 89. We watched a craft. We couldn't see what it was landing in the woods. It was coming directly down. It had orange permeating from underneath it, like it was flaming from up underneath it. Like from the force of it coming down from our atmosphere, it was still burning something off. That's what it was. Heat. So it it landed, and by this time, it was getting blurry. I was getting into the sex phase, wanting girls, smoking weed. It's the typical crap American boys do. All over the earth, they all do that. They'll try it, even if it makes them sleepy or give them a headache. Drink beer, get sick, chase girls around, study martial arts, play football, just all the typical stuff, get in the fights, just completely, but I always think about that, and I always bring it up to my sister, and I would always reason with myself, is it true or isn't it? Well, what about the headpiece? How would you know that? Doesn't make any sense. Who else knows about the headpiece? I tell myself, that's not adding up. So I figured that all out real quick. I still shake my head, something ain't right. But anyways, I let it go. Well, I'm not going to sit and concentrate on this crap anymore. So when I seen this thing landed in the woods, it was my chance to go out there. There was an older gentleman. He was probably 28 years old at the time. His name was Donald Myers. Yep, he was 28 on the nose. He's 10 years older than me, something like that. He's 28. He's seen it landing too. It happened because we watched these fireworks. It happened one day after the 4th of July for the rest of the week. He said, don't go out there. we looked at him. I thought of it. I said, there ain't no way I'm not going out there. I've seen this crap before. Thought about all this stuff. Well, I'm going out here to see what it is. So we ran out there as fast as we could because we thought it was going to try to leave. So when we walked up to the field, we went down a street called Kinsey Street, and it turned into Pulaski Drive, and there was a strawberry field adjacent to the woods. There's a clear field space there, an acre of land, and then there's the woods. We could see whatever was going in the woods. It's making the most ironic, the most weirdest sounds you could ever think of, like just weird. It sounded like metal grinding. Then it sounded like somebody taking a giant gong and like a big kettle and hitting a steel, like hitting a hammer inside of a gigantic iron kettle. This is really weird. It sounded like somebody dropping a dumpster a couple of times. Like what could be that small, making that much noise? And then it was in a row of trees that were cleared by burning one time. When the woods caught on fire, right there, it burned, and it created a little circle. By the time the fire department put it out, it was a circle space there with some tall trees, and they were adjacent to a bunch of sumac bushes. They were kind of obscuring the view in that area where you couldn't see in there. And I knew that clearing wasn't big enough for a helicopter to land in. The blades were catching the trees, so you couldn't land a helicopter in there. That's the only thing that was small enough to land in there. I mean, the only thing that was smaller than an airplane can't land like that. It can't go straight down. So I'm saying, well, hey, what the hell is this? It ain't crashing. I don't see a fire bang. Anyway, when we were starting to go towards the field, I noticed that the field was all white. Had a glow to it, the field did. It was like a white film. And as we got closer to whatever the object was, it felt like I was wading in water. My feet felt light, but they felt heavy at the same time. And then Skip turned, he told me, he said, Aaron, turn around and look. I said, what? He said, look at your shadow. He said, take a step. I take a step, like 2 or 3 steps, and my shadow didn't move. And then all of a sudden my shadow moved like it was supposed to, but it moved out of that space. It had to wait. The time was delayed. And the closer we get to the object, the more my shadow wasn't coming with me. It would delay. The shadow would have a delayed movement. Every step I take, the shadow would get more delayed. Once we got up to the last 10 feet, 20 feet of getting to the craft that was hidden in the bushes, the shadow just disappeared. I had no shadow anymore. He says, I'm telling you, we need to turn around right now. And something inside me says, no, if you turn around, you'll never know what's going on. You'll never know. You'll never know if all the things you thought about that you used to remember in your head were true. You really need to know this because you're an adult now. There ain't no fool in this crap now. This ain't no little kid that can't see what's going on anymore, who's got shaky mindset. You can't play it off as fool or whatever it was, and it still wasn't adding up, and I knew it wasn't, but I wanted to know for sure this time. Well, I kind of figured it wasn't right. I already knew I was screwing up, but I just kept walking. We stooped down. We kneeled down, and I opened the shrubs up, and I seen a metal trim, just like the trim around the door, just like the trim around your wall in your house, 2 inches across, 2 inches wide. It was like a brushed aluminum, and it had cryptographic writing on it. And I noticed that there was a hum coming from it, just like electronic machinery or a machine, but like, just like a constant hum. Then there was other sounds like sounds that wasn't adding up. I looked at that trim, and it was space language. I said, oh, no. I started having flashbacks. I seen the grave. I remembered all the contests. Oh, no, they're real. I said, you done screwed up now, buddy. You're in big trouble. I knew I wasn't going to get out of there the way I came in.
Can you draw some of these symbols that you saw in the craft?
Nope, because they were so sporadic and so. I remember, I pretty much them symbols look like some of the same symbols from the Renison Force estimate that those guys were drawing for you. Okay. There's whole pages and pages full of those things. The Asuna Buno incident in Japan, same type of symbols, same crap, same stuff. there's just pages of it. It's just all over the place. There's just pages of the space of that alien language writing. But anyways, because I won't remember. I remember seeing the triangular shape with a like a planetary thing going by it. I remember that symbol. But I seen that was the same symbol that one of them guys, that Peniston and whatever, drew, that they saw. There's just so many different ones, and they're adding up to something. I don't even know what they mean. I know what they're used for now, though. They're incantation. But anyways, I went to try to stand up because I wanted to get out of there. And my friend, he got so scared, he thought he could run. And he triggered a motion sensor or whatever it is. What they knew we were there. A whole plume of white light looked like a gas came out from wherever that vessel was. I still hadn't seen the vessel, just that trim at the bottom of it, which I knew that it was come from outer space, man, that they could travel all over and do whatever they wanted. They go wherever they want. When I seen that little line, that trim line at the bottom, I knew these things could go wherever they wanted to go. That's when I got scared. I said, these freaks can go, I'm a brother. You know, black dudes don't tell stories like this. And the only reason this crap happened is I don't remember no spaceship landing in the hood. Think about it, though. I never heard so many brothers tell you this. Remember, I was living in suburbia with the whites, adjacent to some woods. Doesn't mean that blacks have been abducted, because one of the main abduction stories was a black and a white person, Barney and Betty. Where did he live at? In the middle of nowhere. Same kind of crap. And that's what happens to you. You don't see too many crafts going to the hood by because they'd rip the thing apart and be selling the stuff. No, I'm just joking. But anyways, you know, and even if a brother did get abducted, they don't want to talk about it. I know Lupe Fiasco, the rapper, he was immersed in light in his apartment. I through his apartment in Chicago. I know a basketball player was abducted, and he mentioned it the night he got abducted. As soon as he played basketball, he told everybody. Remember that?
No, I don't.
Just a couple. Yeah, a basketball player just got abducted maybe a year or two ago, and he mentioned it as soon as it happened. Right up, he didn't even hold it up. He wanted everybody to know.
Do you know his name? Do you remember this?
I forgot. Okay. I know he was playing out in Nevada or something.
Okay.
Oh, he's playing over by that way, Utah or something, right back over there, towards that direction or whatever.
Okay.
They got him.
So you saw these.
But anyways,
yeah, you saw this stuff on the craft, these symbols, and what happened then?
Well, once the plume of light happened, I fell face forward. Something knocked my whole central nervous system out and took control over my whole body and made it unfunctionable. I fell forward in a position with my knees on the ground, my butt in the air like a baby, with my face flat on the ground, with my head turned sideways, just like if a little 2-year-old toddler goes to sleep in that position, where his knees are on the ground, he's leaning his face on the ground. That's the position I was in. I could move my eyes around, but I couldn't move my hands. I couldn't move anything else, my neck or nothing. Anyways, I just got snatched up. Something was coming up from behind me. I could feel it. And it grabbed me by my arm, my wrist, and it pulled me into the shrubs. I mean, it pulled me like I was a 2-year-old toddler, like I was nothing. Just pulled me like I was nothing. And I looked up. By that time, my body started coming to. Whatever that was only works for an instant. It didn't work as long as it wanted to. It worked long enough for them to get their hands on you. My body still didn't work that good because it was just pulling me and I couldn't move. But I think I was more afraid than anything by this time. It was a skeleton. It was an image of a skeleton, like a projected image of a skeleton, with a plasma ball of light in the middle of its chest that was only a projected image, just like the ones you run your hand over with that used to buy at Radio Shack back in the day. You rub your fingertips across it and follow your fingers. It's plasma, the exact same thing. So I don't know how that works, but that's the image it was giving off, and it was no more than an orb, but it was giving off the image of a human skeleton, like an X-ray. It was bright and it was clear as day. And it gave me a hideous look. Well, a skeleton face is going to look crazy anyways. It's made to strike fear in you because the symbols, skeleton is is death. That's the way we see it. It's a death skull. Skulls are death. You know, humans don't look like skulls because they have flesh. So when they die, they're skeletons. That's death. So of course it's going to scare any human as soon as they see a skeleton. That's not right. So I looked at it and I passed out of fear. I actually passed out from it, which is something I never could believe, that you could actually pass out from fear like a girl. I never thought that would happen to me. Even if I seen a wild animal, I would just run from it. Only seeing something like that could make me pass out, seeing a freak like that. Because it didn't make it define all logic. So I was just going to pass out. I couldn't believe I was 17 years old. And it was going against everything. At this time, I had blocked out the other stuff. I would only think about it once every 6 months or so. Or I'd say about once every 3 months or so, I would think about the thing when I was 6. So I never let it go. But I would always say, I forget about you. I'm not going to think about you no more. I just block it out. But after I was getting drugged, I realized I was in a lot of trouble. These things are real. These things are real. These things are real. That's what I was saying to myself. These things are real. These things, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Anyways, I woke up after I passed out. I was inside of this crowd. It was a mesh grate floor with fiber optic wiring that was multicolored. The fiber optic wiring was see-through, and there was multiple colors: purple, blue, light blue, green, red, white. And they were moving in time sequences. It was through the whole wall of the craft, and it was in the ceiling of the craft. Okay, so my vision was still blurry from whatever they did something else to me. I couldn't see that good. My vision started coming to, and I looked to the left of me, and there was a gray, as like he was blocking the way out. Which I looked, and there was no way out. There was no door that was present. So I'm looking at this gray, and as my vision starts to come back, that's when I start realizing he was a gray. And then he's just staring at me. I look over to the right. I see the skeleton image thing, which I could tell he was the boss because he was the most aggressive. He had the plasma ball of light. He was plasma, but he was projecting the image of a skeleton, which he could be any image it wanted to be. It just decided to pick that as an image to toy with me. So I'm sure somebody else was going to get abducted by them. He's going to be some other shape. It's whatever he decides to be at the time to toy with you. He could have looked like a giant lizard if he wanted to. Then there was one, he was wearing an overcoat. He was a hybrid. He was short, terribly short. He probably was no more than 4.5 feet tall. He wasn't even 5 feet. He was almost 5 feet. He looked like he was about 4'11" or 4'9" or something, 4'8". He had a square shaped head. He had like a blockhead. His lips, his skin was that of a Caucasian person. He had very blue eyes, like a soft blue, like ocean blue. I remember that. His lips his top lip looked like it was damaged, and his bottom lip didn't even look correct. His nose looked smashed in. It looked damaged. It was contorted like he didn't come out correct when he was born. His eyes looked like if you pushed your eyes in on the side of took your fingers and pushed your eyes in to make them look crazy. That's how his eyes looked naturally. He looked really sick. It looked like he was gasping for air practically. This thing had the nerve to have a white overcoat on. But, you know, he was in charge of the medical aspects of researching humans on that aspect because he had human characteristics himself. So that's what his job was. They told me to get up on a table that had no supports up underneath it. At first I was like, why should I get on the table that has no supports up underneath it? But before this incident happened, I looked at the gray, and we were having a staring thing. I remember people saying that they would great and stare at them, and then all of a sudden they would get information in their mind. We were doing a staring thing, but I just kept looking at them, and I started realizing, wait a minute, that's you. I remember you. Hey, man. I started talking to him. That's you. And the light beam ran up to you, went right over to you. He's like, get out of his head. Get out of his head right now. Don't you usually say like a human tone of control and violent tones towards me. The same as a military person who's captured would get treated by the enemy. Same type of behavior. When I looked at the gray looked like he was so upset from getting his mind picked apart by me that it looked like he was projecting some like his behavior turned like he had to show off for this thing because he was in front of his superior. So he gave off a lot of hate towards me. I could feel it. I feel like my body was going to get ripped apart. I was afraid, so I put my head down between my legs. I put my head down on purpose because I didn't want him to hurt me. So I put my head down and shut the heck up. Well, the table. Okay, what's that now?
Well, did you see any other people on the craft? Any other humans, rather?
Just Skip.
Skip.
Remember the other guy was with me.
I thought
He's
that was Donald Myers, or is that someone else?
Donald Myers, he never got in the craft. He was the one that told us not to go in the woods on Hudson Street after the fireworks. He was the one that said don't go out there. I'll tell you why he said not to go. Because he was abducted before. He just never told nobody because he didn't want to look like he was a lunatic, which I don't blame him.
Okay.
But he told me on his deathbed years later when he's 38 years old that he was abducted.
All right.
But anyways, he died from cancer years later. It had nothing to do with that. It's from a kidney transplant. That went bad after a while.
And what did the interior of the craft look like? I mean, I know you described it as fiber optics. Was that inside the craft or outside?
That was inside the craft, and you could see it. You could see it like it's almost like it's taped up to the walls and stuff inside of there. And the stuff had a lava look to it almost. Some of the material did. It's like pinkish, bluish, blackish, purplish. You couldn't. Some of those materials that were in there, I couldn't explain. They were unearthly origin. The way their materials were combined together. It would look like molten material, like molten lava, some of it. You couldn't figure it all out. Some of it was man-made. I could tell some of the materials were made by that they got those from actual manufacturer. Somebody was actually helping them manufacture materials. Materials that they used to manufacture themselves, we were actually manufacturing. There's companies, aeronautics facilities, aerospace industry, actually joint manufacturing materials with them. And sharing technology and materials. That I did see. That was present. A lot of materials that you see in any high-tech facility in some ways. But it still had that really sci-fi look to it.
All right. So what happens then? I guess, are you on the gurney at this point or the table strapped down?
Yeah, they wanted me to get up on this look like a gurney. But it's like the plastic piece, just like the ones you see years later by the late 90s. The plastic piece that's on top of the gurney. But it had no supports up underneath it and nothing, no wheels or nothing. It just floated. They told me to get up on it. I told them, what's the sense of me getting up on that when the table that I'm going to get up on is less than 6 feet away? Says, you get up on it right now. You get on it. That's what he told me inside of my head again. He isn't moving his mouth. He's talking to me inside my mind. I was afraid. So I got on it. I said, okay. As soon as he tells me something, I was very stubborn. I just said, still trying to talk. I got on the table. I got on the gurney like he told me, and it moved real slow. I figured years later, not too long ago, I figured that it was saying my height, my weight, something somewhere else on the interface. They would know my height, my weight, my blood type, my blah blah blah, my blah blah blah, my approximate age, that's what the thing was for. That's why they wanted me on that, to get all that information right off the top. So I figured that's what that thing did. It did a reading of everything. I got off of that, and they helped me get onto the table, which I didn't need help, but they helped me get out of there. I got on there. Standing directly behind me, they were all behind me, and behind me was a bunch of metal objects, look like chromium devices, just like a 50s bumper chrome, that shiny. And they were all different alien-type shapes with all different odd aerodynamic curves and shapes to them that were terrifying. And you could tell they cut into you and stuff. I was like, you're not going to use any of those on me, are you? No. Which is a lie. I'm sitting right there. They lie right to you in your face. Just the next thing you know, they said, hold on, we're just going to do this. They stuck a metal rod down through my collarbone, And as they're pushing it down in there, they're putting something in me. I could feel it wiggling inside of me, and I could feel the rod coming back up at the same time. So they're putting something in me and taking something out at the same time. A multifaceted medical procedure at once. Does more than one thing. Like they had thought this stuff out, they just created stuff to do more than one thing at once. That hurt really, 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 really bad. Whatever that was made it so the next stuff that they do, I wouldn't feel it anymore. So that must have been the first procedure they do to keep you from feeling any pain when they go to do the rest of their procedures to you.
So what do you think that stuff was they took out and what was already in there? Any ideas?
Probably, I have no idea what they put in me. Whatever it was, it felt like it was alive at that particular second, which it would seem like it was something that was alive. It was nano or whatever. It was something they created that had intelligence.
And
I don't know.
After they took it out, were you able to see what it looked like?
I've never seen anything. Not that particular object.
Okay.
Then they grabbed me and they held me down. They grabbed me by the back of my neck. And two of them, the other two held my hands. And the one, the projected image skeleton type thing held my hands, one of my hands, and the hybrid held my other hand, and the Grays put his hand on top of my head. And he was able to actually penetrate my mind so I couldn't move. He would use that same type of crap on me, so I had a hard time getting away. But they took out a creature that was just like the one on the Matrix, it looked like. I ain't gonna lie to you, because it sounds stupid, but it's the truth. It looked like a little shrimp. And it was wiggling around and everything. It was ugly. It had red eyes. It was metallic. So it seemed like to me it was a creature that was created out of some type of technology. But he was made out of metal too. He was shiny just like chrome, but he had different variances to him. But he was like a bug, but he had he looked like a shrimp. He was shrimpish looking like that creature. Same exact one, like they do this. So let's just throw this in here so they can see this. Like they're letting you know. They throw one clue in there in those movies. Somebody threw that in there. That thing was definitely the exact same type of creature.
And where did you see that? Where was this creature? Where did you see this? They did something and it was coming up my leg just like they did him. And it was looking at me dead in my face. With red eyes. But it looked like he was made out of, like he was digital equipment. He was digital. He was metallic. It was alive, but it wasn't earthly, and it was made out of, it looked like it was made out of metal or something, man. That's the thing about it. But it moved just like a creature, but it was intelligent. It had the mind of a human or something. It had the thing that it was from the bottom of it was climbing all the way up my leg, up my thigh, and it was coming. And they let it. And they were holding me down for it. Then they started prying my mouth open and wouldn't let me close my mouth. And it jumped in my mouth and went down my throat. Then they closed my mouth up so I couldn't try to cough it back out or whatever. And then I remember hearing a digital sound just like he did in the Matrix, and I remember seeing zeros and ones just like he did. Exactly. This was before the Matrix, before I knew anything about it. And that's exactly what was happening to me, is the exact same type of sound. That's what throws me off. How the heck is that? How the heck is that? That's what you need to ask yourself. That's what we all need to ask ourselves. How is that possible? Who are these people? Where would they get that information from? How would you accurately depict something like that? Yet the movie had nothing to do with actual aliens. But yet that creature was alien in origin. So you know how they threw that in there? That was like an alien little freak, but the rest of the movie wasn't based up. But then the Sentinels were freaks. You remember that? Yeah, the Matrix, right.
Which is peculiar when you think about it now. They were technology, but they looked like living beings with intelligence. But they were made out of metal. I passed out, I woke back up again just that quick. Like, it happened and I was like, back up. Then, this is when it gets weird. They take a large metal, I look behind me and they got a shrimp, looks like a gigantic lobster. I'm completely terrified. I said, they took a saw, one of those saws they had, and they cut my back open. And I could feel my skin opening up. I could feel my back being split open. And then they stuffed that gigantic lobster-looking creature inside of my back. And I felt no pain at all.
And,
nothing.
How can you describe
Nothing.
the size of this lobster?
This thing, man, was about 3 foot. It was about, man, this thing had 2.5 foot long. 10 inches wide.
And how
in
could
some
they,
spaces.
And how could they
I
fit that
have
in
no
you?
idea. What's it now?
Well, how would they? Okay, so you don't know how they could fit that thing into you. It's that big.
They were stuffing it in me. And it was, you could feel it clamping into my spine. It was connecting itself to all of my nerve ports.
Okay. Hello? Aaron?
You hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Do you still hear me?
Yeah.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. This thing had tentacles, all our hairs all over, like all those little thousands of hairs it had all over were going to connect to all my nerve endings in my body.
And
whatever they did in that first procedure that hurt really bad was going to stop the rest of the procedures they did from not hurting.
Oh, I see.
That's what I'm guessing. Oh, it's obvious. Because if I felt pain from the first procedure, that was just terrible. And then nothing. How can you cut my whole back open, leave no scarring, stuff this thing into my back, and it's got all these hairs all over. But yeah, it looks like an oversized lobster, an insectoid. And it was less chromium looking. It had an orange, reddish, mucky tint to it. It didn't look the same as the.
Have you drawn any pictures of these?
I could have somebody draw some pictures of this. But just think about a lobster with extra hair on it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just stupid looking. It's just another freak insect. Basically, the creature you see on the Matrix, draw that more of a lobster version of that with hairs all over, and then change the color variation around. They're just nasty looking insects. This thing didn't move though, but it moved once they activated it or whatever, and they got it where they wanted it. Then it moved. It was moving in my body.
Well, did they close your back up after they put it in?
It closed back up on its own, obviously. It left no scarring.
Wow.
No epidermal scarring. There's nothing there to show that anything's been on my back. Nothing. Not no scars, nothing. You tell me that ain't amazing, that they don't got skills to heal somebody for real, but you have to go around torturing people. They could probably make it so we live 800 years. I wouldn't doubt it. But they don't want to do that. They want to do whatever they want to do. They want to attach dark energy to our being so they can use us for whatever they're going to use us for.
And so what did you experience after the lobster creature was put in you and he closed up? Did any other sensations at
They
that point?
did 4 or 5 more things to me I was up for the whole thing. That was so terrifying I couldn't remember. Only Skip can remember it because he watched the whole thing. They didn't lay a hand on him. They just sat there and did it to me. Which to this day I'm still angry by that.
Yeah. Well,
I didn't talk about this until I was 34 years old. Now I'm 44.
Well, did Skip ever tell you what he saw?
He tried to, and I would tell him to shut up. It hurt. It was so ill. I just couldn't. That was just unreal. There was no way to deal with that at all at that age.
And
shut up. I didn't want to. There was no way. 25, I wouldn't talk to you. Terrified. 17, definitely wasn't going to talk about it. 25, we had a reunion, hung out with each other, tried to tell me about it. I went crazy because I started seeing it. As he spoke, I started seeing what was happening again, and I went ballistic. I could not deal with it. It was just terrifying. I didn't talk about it at all until I was 34. Nobody knew nothing about it. I didn't come out until I was 40 years old and actually tell the public. So I haven't talked about this for probably maybe 4 years, 3 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Until I was 41. Yeah. It was very long. By that time, I wasn't hip anymore. You know what I mean? I got a family and kids. I'm married. I got 2 children.
Well, what did you experience?
So by that time,
yeah. So what did you experience after that? After this creature? Anything else on that ship? You recall?
They had me sit back down on the bench, look over at them. Skip is standing behind them, and they're all looking at me to see what the reaction would be to what they've done to my upgrades. They're all just staring at me like they're amazed by the work. Like, wow, okay, what's next? We've done this now. Let's see what he's going to do. I don't know if they thought I was going to break out and do something or what. They're just said, what? What you guys? I said, what are you looking at? What? I said, okay, why? I stood up and I acted different. It's like I just kept blanking it out. Like my ignorance would never end. Like I just snap out of it like it never happened. I knew it happened, but I just keep acting. And I was stupid enough to ask them where they came from. I stood up and he had a ball in the middle of the table. It looked like a globe. It was beige, and it had all the zodiac symbols on it, like Sagittarius, all them different symbols on it, like Aquarius, all the star alignment like that. He touched it, the ball rolled to a position, and it showed the area it come from. He said, Zeta Reticuli in my head, clear as day. And the way he said it, the tone he used like this, he said, Zeta Reticuli. He said reticuli real long, and he kind of moved that skull thing, that head of his, like he was so proud of this place. Like it was the most best place there was in the face of the universe, which was very peculiar to me, considering that it was a light being that wasn't even human, wasn't even, you know what I mean? This is weird, you know. It was an orb projecting an image. So it really is twisted. Nobody's going to tell this stupid story. Because you know why I never talked about it all that time. Listen to it. It's ridiculous to be subjected to that kind of crap.
All right.
So anyways, I get a stupid idea. What's it now?
Okay, you had a stupid idea?
The stupid idea next was we want to go on a little space trip. So we tell these freaks, I tell this freak, we want to leave the atmosphere. Since you did all this stuff to me, that's what I told them. I want to go. Give me a trip. Which that was a dumb mistake. My ignorance would never end. My ignorance never end. My naiveness, my stupidity never ended. It just kept going and going and going. I still hadn't learned my lesson yet. Even after all that crap they did to me, I still hadn't learned my lesson. Actually, I felt good after they put those creatures in me. I felt stronger. It's because they were supporting they're taking some of the gravity off my body. Whenever somebody does that, they're adding an assisted type of creature inside of you. So, of course, you're going to feel a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more stronger than normal. That's how I felt. So I guess since I felt so good, I told them I felt great, which was stupid. I went over to a table, and it had a lava-like pattern on it. It looked like a V shape to put your fingers in. If you put your 2 fingers together, your 4 fingers, your index, your middle finger, those 2 together, and then your ring finger and your pinky together, and then open them up, you get a V. And then you got your thumb. They're left and right like that. I stuck my hand on that table when I sat down in that chair. My arms got sucked in up to my elbows, and a thing came out of the table, automated, out of the table, and pulled my chin up while I'm facing an oval window. The craft lifted up out of the atmosphere. This is the freaking truth. Nobody else is going to tell you this craziness. I went up out of the atmosphere. We flew. We got up to a certain height. I seen the Earth. I was amazed by that. I started having a flashback of the crap that happened when I was 6. There's that same big blue marble. I didn't never see the moon this particular time. I didn't see the moon to the left. I never noticed it. It wasn't out like that. It wasn't in my field of view from where I was sitting. The crafts went up. I still hadn't seen what craft I was in yet. And I was only I could see out of the window. They were using another way of flying. From the center of the table, they had that globe, and they had light buttons and stuff around there and interfaces to do whatever they wanted to do at that position. So they wasn't worried about seeing. They were using their digital images, readings to go where they were going. We went up past the planet. We left Earth, and it started getting darker. And then, as we got away from Earth, we got further and further away. It kept elevating up. Once it reached a certain trajectory and got an open space for a straight beehive line, a beeline straight to Zeta Reticuli, it shot through a freaking wormhole, high speed, faster than the speed of light. Just gone, the speed of light, gone. And I remember I was hooting and hollering, even though I was in an uncomfortable position. I got her in this. When I got there, it took us to the edge of us. I thought it was a planet, and it looked like the Jurassic creatures were on the planet. And we didn't go to the planet; we just went down by it. These things were jumping and jumping all over. I remember seeing tropical ferns that looked like they were old from thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. Ferns that were old during the time the dinosaurs were around. Jurassic ferns. So I'm thinking, man, in this place, there were these 5 or 6 creatures down there. One of them looked like a female that had eyes had a blue skin, had eyes like a snake, eyes like a fly with the slits in it like a reptile. And it was wearing one of those outfits, like a stretch suit, like Jessica Alba wears on the Fantastic Four. And it looked like a chick, but that thing was an insect, reptile-looking thing. I was like, that's not right. And then, all of a sudden, all of them, they got so excited when they thought I was going to get dumped off. They said, do you want to stay here? I said, no. And then I looked over at this one creature, and it was so terrifying. My eyes rolled back in my head. I was still to this day, I could not understand what that thing was. I can't even see it. It was so terrifying.
So you don't remember what it looked like?
You can't. Even though I've been terrified, I've seen everything that's completely terrible. This thing was so terrifying, this creature. It was so terrifying. Okay, you know how we got a bunch of shapes in our dimension? We have all these different shapes. We have all these different variances. We got things that are hairy looking. We got things that are ooze. We got all these different shapes. We got all these different shapes and creatures. And we've seen every imaginable ugly kind of creature you can think of. They actually have shapes that don't exist in our plane. Period. I don't even know how that's possible. They can terrorize you and show you things that are so terrifying that you can't even comprehend. Your mind cannot even comprehend what you just saw. It's that bad. You dimensionally, in your dimension, we come from the 3rd dimension, we cannot. It is so terrifying. At least you were a physicist, an astrophysicist or something, that you would even be able to suck it up to even begin able to explain what you saw. Way out of my league. Wasn't any of the shapes or anything I've ever seen. It terrified me so bad I went into convulsions and my eyes rolled back in my head. What the heck was that? And they kept saying they were going to leave me there. I started screaming. I screamed from my mom. I screamed from my friend. This is when it gets a little weird. They were going to try to dump me off there. Okay, check out what happens to them, the creatures. Everything turned into a blue, purplish, black oil. The planet wasn't real. The trees wasn't real. The creatures wasn't real. Nothing was real. Everything was a lie. Everything began to spin in like a swirling motion. It was all lies. I started to see like the gases form like smoke. These things were popping in and out of this, and they were all, it's like spirits of other people, and they were like imprinting themselves out like hell. You could see them. there was people that were trapped there, other entities too, like they come from other places or something from long period times, like thousands and thousands of years ago.
Well, so
Other being, it was terrible.
you think it could have been like a holographic construct?
No. It was let me explain it to you. A gaseous. If you got jumped off there, it would take your spirit out of you, then it would take your flesh material, it would turn it into a black oil, that purplish, blackish oil, and you would become part of this consciousness to feed this thing consciousness. It was the size of a freaking planet. So you would fall down into its abyss, and then you would be amalgamated with this gigantic consciousness of torture and pain and trapped spirits and souls. That's exactly what it was. Now do you understand what I'm telling you?
Okay. So what
imagine
happened
a
then?
ball. What's it now?
So what happens then after you see this?
Well, my eyes rolled back in my head once I realized that I was being played and it was all just crap. They just wanted to dump me off in there so they could feed this gigantic fake planet that's nothing more than a gigantic ball of black oil that has people's consciousness trapped in it, and it's nothing. And then it would feed off you, and it would just be a rotating thing, and it's supposed to feed off everybody. It's just going to feed off and grow bigger. That's all it's going to do. It's not anything. They didn't even want to go down in there. Why do you think they didn't even land on it? If they landed that craft on that thing, then they got sucked in there too. They weren't going to go that close to it. They wanted to dump you off in it. There's a little bit of hell to go in. That's what it was in its own way. It was a torture place. It was a place with a bunch of twisted souls and spirits and evil spirits twisted together. That's where you go. And they're moving in and out and they're twisted. You'll see ones that'll put their hand out, but they'll be the form of that stuff. I've seen faces and images, but it all became one gaseous crap. That's what it was. Some weird, gigantic, amalgamated gas. It was like, that's how it moved like, but it was like oil. It looked like it was almost magnetic.
All right.
It would have had one.
Yeah, let's move on a bit here. So after you saw this, okay, so I guess they wanted to leave you off, but so obviously they didn't leave you there. What happened then?
No. They were starting to build up to a climax. They started screaming and hollering, basically hollering and loud, like, "You're going to be here. You're going to stay." Just started getting at that point. I was in trouble. I had to come up with some kind of trick. So what I did was I tried to scream for my friend. That wasn't going to happen. I screamed for my mother. That wasn't happening. I called for Jesus to save me. Jesus wasn't coming. So then once I realized Jesus wasn't coming, I said, "Jesus," because I was Christian and from church when I was little, "Forgive me for my sins. I'm sorry that I messed with these creatures. I'm crying. I'm sorry for everything I've ever done that was wrong, and I was wrong for coming out here and bothering these people." I call them people. "And I'm sorry." And these creatures jumped up. They flew up. They levitated out of their area where they were at, and they had mouths all of a sudden. The whole face just opened up 10 inches around like a mouth. Imagine your mouth opening up 10 inches in diameter and then bellowing out the sound of thunder. That's what you're like, like that. That's what they were doing. Right over the top of me, and I could feel the air on me bellowing out of them. All of a sudden, all three of those things became the same type of creature without changing. The sound was the same, the size of the perimeter of their mouth area was the same, and the thunderous bellowing sound that was coming out of them was the same, because I had asked for forgiveness for my soul, and that's what they really wanted the whole time. Everything was a game, was a freaking lie. Jesus wasn't going to come and save you. You had to repent for the stuff you've done for Jesus to show up. That's what happened. And then the whole craft filled up with a yellowish glow, and there was an angel of light that appeared, and they became scared, and they told me they were going to bring me back. And my friend Skip got a clear view of that angel. They were terrified of him. They dropped us back off. When I got out of the craft, they let me go first. They told me I couldn't see a way out. I noticed there was an upside-down pyramid shape, like a diamond. It was only 3.5 feet tall, 4 foot tall, that space. I dipped down. I said, you're going to make a door. You better make it right now, buddy, because they wasn't telling me how to get out. They weren't going to push me out. So I just went right through solid material, right out of the craft. I turned around and looked, and it was a black glass pyramid. It was only like about 7 foot tall and only about 4 feet, 5 feet wide.
And was it
But yet,
levitating?
I was in 20 feet of space, and I was on the inside of it. Therefore, it's a dimension inside of a dimension.
So, but the craft was levitating, right?
No, the craft was on the ground.
Oh, okay.
It had cryptographic writing on all 4 sides of it. It looked like black glass. It looked like smooth cobalt glass. It had cryptographic writing all over, which I realized later on it was an incantation, the power part of that craft, which is demonic power control of some other origin that had nothing that had of a higher knowledge.
Have you seen the Dr. Jonathan Reed material?
I'm sorry, no. I learned about Dr. Reed later on.
Yeah. Did you ever see the obelisk that he found in the woods, and is that what it looked like?
No, yeah, I've seen that. I don't know anything about that. So what happened after that? The next day,
that's their craft. They can actually make it bigger and smaller. It can expand in size.
Probably, because I told you it was a dimension inside a dimension. So check this out. The next day, because I know you're running out of time. The next day, we went back to the area. There's 3 distinctive burn marks. I took a photograph of it with one of those Kodak old disc cameras back in the day. The photograph came up missing after my mother's death because they took a bunch of pictures out to make a collage after her death. Well, nobody knows where the picture is. They got boxes all over the freaking place. So I left the state. But who cares? The point is, okay, the next day there was a guy. He had a Geiger meter that was orange. He come in there. We said, "Come here." He's wearing docksiders. He's blonde hair, blue eyes, reddish blonde hair. He was wearing shorts. We had him walk over to the spot. He ran his Geiger meter and he went off the freaking charts. I said, "Okay." He's seen that. After that guy walked away, he was happy with that. He took some photographs of that, and then he took off. He took some samples of the soil, and then he took off, which was peculiar. He looked just as normal because he was human. He looked just as normal. He was young. He could have been no more than 28, 29. He's between 25 and 33, 34. He took off. He's a young guy. He took off. Skip had 2 bracelets. He had them from the night before, but he didn't want the bracelets anymore because the bracelets, he just went home that night with them. He's supposed to gave me one that night, but he didn't. The graves were in his house. He seen them out the corner of his eye, and he ran down the staircase, but they were gone. That's how they do you. He didn't want either one of them because he figured they were tracking devices. So he gave them both to me. I take one. I go to set it up. I go to see how it looked on my wrist, just like your friend. And it clamped down on my wrist. It only had 2 prongs in it, not 3.
This
it
is
did
like
have
the
polymer
Dr. Jonathan Reed bracelet, but it was silver instead of gold.
They were like almost black, they were dark. They were like stainless steel looking, but they were more dark looking. They had a black hue to them. They had the same type of markings like Dr. Jonathan Reed with the button thing and that thing on them, exact same type of setup. Maybe the configuration of the letters was slightly different. The configuration of the symbols were slightly different. They only had 2 prongs in them, but they were full-size bracelets. They wasn't small little kitty bracelets either. Because you mentioned there's different sizes. These things were big. They were full-size barbarian-looking bands.
So they were they designed for humans? Let me rephrase that. Were they designed for like the small grays or for something bigger to use?
They were designed for humans. These bracelets were not designed for grays. They were given to him after the abduction, after I left the craft.
Oh, okay.
They were given to him. These were specifically made for humans. Grays don't need those. They can jump. They don't need them bracelets. They use telepathy to communicate with people. They don't need them bracelets. Dr. Jonathan Reed, I don't know what the hell he's doing. I know that bracelet's real. But some of that stuff he's saying and stuff, I don't know what he's talking. It doesn't make any sense. There's no need for a gray with that stupid bracelet. Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't add up. Those bracelets are made for humans. Only humans need to interface to something like that. They don't need that. Doesn't make any sense.
Well, I believe the Greys. The Greys they would use it to stun people that threatened them.
No, that was people that they've been abducted, or people that are involved with the program that have been abducted, that they want to do some further work with, or want to give a consultation type training to go to another level, or is demonic, to play games with you, to further suck you in. So what happens is, I set the bracelet on my wrist just to look at it on top. It jumped, it just came to life, and it just clamped down on my wrist, and it started sucking the life right out of me, just like it did him. I felt that pain.
When you said it clamped down on you, did the actual shell, the chassis around it, did that actually change shape and clamp on, or is it just the needles?
I couldn't see none of that because it was on the top of my wrist. When I did it, I just had my arm out and set it on top to see what it would look like. And it just said, just like, gotcha, just like that. Went right around my wrist, and then it just was tight, like, just squeezing like a python. That's the way it felt. And I remember my eyes just feeling like, oh, like that. Just feeling that feeling, oh my God. After last night, why am I so stupid? This thing is real? No, not again, not the same crap over again. Not this crap. What is this? The next thing you know, my friend is using both of his hands to try to pull this thing off my wrist. And I only can use one because one wrist is on one hand is occupied, the wrist is, so I can't use my own hand to pull it off. I have to use my right hand. And I'm left-handed, so I'm using my right hand to pull it off my left wrist. And he's using both of his hands to try to pull it off. It did not want to come off at all. Didn't make any sense. And what happened was I looked down, and I was not there. But yet, I was physically there. I was there, but I couldn't see my legs or nothing. All I could see was the ground. It was completely gone. My body was completely invisible. And when it was happening, there was too much to suck in after last night because I was already traumatized with what happened the day before.
Now, when you were invisible, did you actually see, was the bracelet invisible too?
It was gone. My arm wasn't there. Nothing. I wasn't there. He was holding on to me. He was crying. He was almost crying. I was crying too.
Well, when he was holding on to you, did he see you turn invisible, or was he? I mean, could he feel you?
He seen me. He was always trying to pull it off when it clamped on me. When he seen me going into convulsions, he right away tried to help me. We were best friends. He right away tried to get it off. He was terrified. I was his best friend. He was my best friend. He was terrified. He thought he was going to lose me. I thought their grades were taking me to their dimension. But really, I was just cloaking. I hadn't utilized all of it.
Did he see you turn invisible, or did he go invisible with you?
He saw me turn invisible. He seen me turn invisible. But he wouldn't let go. He didn't let go.
Okay, so when you were invisible, could he still feel your body?
He could still feel your body.
Okay.
And he never let go. He just kept pulling, he kept prying. He used every amount of energy he could to get that thing off my wrist. And I pulled too. Even harder than normal then. And even after we got it off, I believe the bracelet came back into play. I was still gone for a second. When Art Tanis was riding down Kinsey Street, he looked and he seen Skip in the field by himself, struggling, doing something. Then he seen me, he's just staring at Skip. He seen me just reappear right in front of his face, 30 feet out in the field. Yeah, like I said before, and then after when it had clamped on my wrist, that's when I started dematerializing. But actually, it was not dematerializing, I was just becoming invisible. And what I figured it out later, on the technology behind that without really knowing how to utilize, like create the technology. They speed up your molecules. I know that. And then somehow I can't figure out, you become invisible. They speed your molecules up and scramble them, and then you can't be seen.
Now, when this When it clamped down on you, did you feel needles going into your arm?
Yeah, I felt that surge of pain. I felt a terrible surge of pain. It went right up. I felt, as soon as it clamped down on my arm, I felt vibrations. Like, just just vibrations. It just shot through my arm, and as the vibrations went through my whole body super fast, as it squeezed, because see, what I did was, when it clamped down on my wrist, I was pushing on the buttons, not realizing what I was doing. I was probably activating it by pushing on the stuff, trying to get it off.
Well,
Right. I was going crazy, pushing all over the place.
No.
So I probably activated the cloaking device.
Okay, but and did it hurt when you put it on? Was it?
It hurt, and then it felt like over my head. It felt like I was in a pool of water, and it felt like the world was up there, and I needed to climb up there. But yet I could see him. I could see him pulling at me, and I was pulling at it too. He just never wouldn't let go of me. That's what was happening. He was yanking it off my arm. He never let go of my arm. He kept fighting for it.
Okay. So what happened then? How obviously you reappeared since you're here with us.
I reappeared in front of Art Canis. He's seen it. We walked up. First, I was crying. I sat down on the ground, and I was crying out of both of my eyes, and I was rocking back and forth for a second. And I was crying. And Art Canis, he was a grown man, grown man, probably like 30, 31, hard-working, country boy. He stopped his vehicle, and he said, "What in the world is going on with you two? Where were you? How can you just appear? You're invisible. How can you just appear out of nowhere, man? What's going on? What are those? What is that?"
So
I got tears coming out of my face.
Okay, so he saw you with the wristband on, and at that point, was it already coming off, or?
No, I had already got it off. This all happened so quick. This all went down. He didn't move his vehicle. He sat there for over 60 seconds, which felt like 5 minutes. Do you know what I mean? Because he couldn't believe what he just saw. When Skip was trying to pull it off, I was crying, and he was like in tears. Because, man, I thought I'd never see you again. He was crying. He was like crying, just like whining, crying, and his eyes were welted up. I was straight up crying out of both of my. I wasn't like that, but the tears had jumped out of both of my cheeks, out of my eyes, and was rolling down my face. And I was rocking back and forth for a second. Then I just stood up and I snapped out of it, and he told us to come over. He says, "Where were you? How did you were gone. You weren't there. How did you just appear? I seen you just appear, man. I watched you appear." And then I said, these bracelets, we got abducted by the aliens last night. He goes, "You need to get rid of those bracelets." He says, "He was a country boy, but he knew what he saw." He said, it's just common sense. Get rid of those. You need to hurry and get rid of those. I said, "Do you want them?" He said, "I don't want them. Get rid of those." Flat out, I don't want anything. I don't want that stuff coming after me. Get rid of those bracelets, Aaron. Both of you, get rid of those. He was terrified.
All right, so what happened? Did you get rid of them?
First, I took them back home, and I took a pair of pliers, and I pulled those three things out of there so they could never do that again to anybody else. I bent those things out of there, threw the things on the ground, those little prongs that were in them. And then I sat there and I just kept wiggling back and forth with the pliers or a pair of flathead screwdriver, and I just kept beating on it till I made it flush. Then I took them and I stuck them both on one wrist, one on one and one on the other, like I was Conan the Barbarian. But I felt I was a kid. So I felt that, I was like, these are kind of cool looking after the fact. Okay, you can't activate no more because I took the prongs out. The prongs are what create the vibration. Without the prongs, the process won't work. So I know how to kill them. All you got to do is destroy those delicate little things, and it's done. But it's still a tracking device. They can still know where you're at. So I had both the bracelets for one day. I put them in my drawer, and a gray was in my bedroom that night. And I threw my window open as fast as I could, and I turned my head super fast, and I caught the edge of that gray, that same one running. He's running like he was scared. And the reason why he's probably scared because of the upgrades that they put in me. So now they're acting like they're slightly afraid of me now. Like I could do something to them. Like, you know.
Well, when you put the bracelets on, the ones that had the whittled down needle points, did you feel anything at all? Did it work at all?
Yeah, I still felt, when you put them on, it felt like something was trying to wiggle itself underneath my skin still. But it wasn't none of that, like it wanted to activate. Whatever the function was that was left, that was in them, like living nanotechnology type crap or whatever that is, it was trying to get under my skin. So it was irritating my skin is what it felt like. But it felt like little ants or something, you know, nipping at you. It was like a painful, slight little tingling bite. So I just took them off and thought, you can't wear these. They're irritating my skin. Almost like if you were wearing a ring that was made out of pot metal. You know what I mean? So I just never put them back on. I just thought I'd keep them because I deserved to have them. I thought I earned the one of them at least. And he didn't want his no more, so I said, after, I'm going to keep these for reference. Well, you couldn't keep them because they wouldn't, like he said, they'd come to my house. Then it's just going to get bigger. I didn't keep them more than that one night. He couldn't keep them but the one night after the abduction, and I couldn't keep them but one night after the abduction. So they're only in possession for less than 24 hours. No more than 24 hours. You couldn't keep them.
So
well, I gave them down. What's that now?
Where are they now?
Well, I gave them to Donald Myers on purpose and told him to put them away for safekeeping.
Yeah.
I didn't want to sell them. I didn't want to do anything with them. Well, he sent them out for a yard sale, and a very large man came and picked them up, asked what they were, and I told the man I heard they were from aliens. Like it didn't happen to me. I lied to him, and I said those are dangerous, and they'll follow you around. If you're gonna take them, you need to go put them somewhere for a scientific study or something, or hide them somewhere away from you. So if you're gonna take those, I don't want them. I didn't care. I didn't want them at the time. Now I wish I would have had a more scientific approach.
Yeah.
What I really wish I would have done with them was put them in something, in a large tree, and I went up and climbed up the tree and then strapped them somehow to the tree and then covered them up. Plastic, they could have been plastic for 20 years, just outside. I could have nailed them to a tree in plastic and just left them there. Let them kind of just galvanize themselves to the tree, and then if I ever wanted, I could have won. They would have still been there. They had no interest in the bracelets. They only had interest in the people that were wearing them. They would have never come back and took the bracelets back. I could have just put them in a giant oak tree, got up there, and kept them up there. I wish I would have. I do now.
Did you ever take photos?
Never did. Stupid not to. I wished I effing would. That picture of them worth $1 million right now. Just on the premise of those, the disc camera said the date and everything in code on the back of those pictures. You can't duplicate you can't duplicate that old film because it's all, you can know that it's an actual image by expert. That would have been proof enough. That would have been proof enough. 3 burn marks in the ground can be duplicated.
Did you
But then again, the pictures are from 1989. So, if I'd have had just the pictures of the 3 distinct burn marks, I wish I would have took pictures of those things. I don't know why I didn't. I had a disc camera.
Well, do you think the guy who purchased them was probably government or military, or maybe you don't know?
I have no idea. He was just a large elderly man. He was wearing a pair of khaki shorts, a pair of tennis shoes or loafers, and he had on like a older guy's shirt, like a short sleeve shirt that with a butterfly collar. Not butterfly, but just regular. Yeah, we call them butterfly collars though. That's what they are. even though it's not the really big butterfly collar like the ones for the 70s. More like the Oxford butterfly collars with the button down on them, the button. Just a normal looking old guy, but he was huge. I remember him being like about 6'6", weighing about.
Well, do you think that you may have been involved in Project Ibis? I believe you brought that word up with me. Was that you?
Yeah, for the childhood, those bracelets, they were given those bracelets because there was already a connection. Their bracelets were connected. Anybody could have used them. Not anybody could necessarily activate those bracelets. Those bracelets were given to us because they were angry because I called on the Lord, and they're demons and they have high level technology. They wanted to see if I was stupid enough to keep playing their game. They were going to wait, and they were going to try to find a way. I wasn't no good to them once I was asking the Lord, actually repenting to God.
Okay.
You know,
well,
that's not going to say, see, once the demons in them know that they can't get your soul, you don't have any value anymore.
All right. Well, is there any other quick stories you want to share with us before we wrap up here? Anything else you feel is relevant that you missed? Or
nah, not really. You know, there's a lot of other weird things going on. Like, I got shot at a bar. They thought I was at a bar one time, and I was fighting these guys in 2004. When I was working for a pawn shop, I left and went to a bar that night, but I did not go. I ended up drinking too many beers and passing out at home with my woman and my new kid that I'm married to right now. I just ended up marrying her like 2 years ago. I passed out. I went to a bar and was partying, and I got into a fight with these guys, and I was beating the mess out of these guys. One of them went outside and got a gun and shot me in the back of my head, and I remember very clearly. And then the next thing, I jumped up out of my bed at home, and my head was throbbing. At the top, I could see it moving. I went and laid back down, or my capillaries in my skull were going to burst, and I burst from an aneurysm. I calmed down and stopped. The police called my house and asked me was I all right. I heard you got shot. 30-something witnesses recognize you from grade school, and they know you. Then another person called who actually went to school with me, Officer Cheatham, and said, we've seen you at the bar, too. But it wasn't me, but I seen the whole thing in a dream like I was there, and I jumped up after I got shot in the dream. I remember climbing back into my body and then waking up at home. So that was the astral shell. They claimed, they said that everybody went outside. They claimed that they never seen the body. I mean, the body was there when everybody ran outside. They didn't want to be in the bar with a dead body in the hallway where the ticket booth was at. It just scared everybody. So I went outside and waited for the police to come. When the police came, everybody else was leaving, and a few people who were friends with me, who knew me, wanted to go back in and look. The body was gone. It was in the newspaper.
Wow.
It was under investigation. And, you know, the security cameras are supposed to be running. You know what they said? The security cameras weren't running. Now, you know they lied. They got that footage.
I think it was probably a clone. It was probably teleported out.
Wasn't a clone because I was there real time and seen the whole thing and was there and felt the blow to the head.
You would have been astral traveling inside the clone, maybe. Or maybe that's just a stretch.
Nope. Astral shell. Something you don't know about. Bilocation. It's called an astral shell.
But why?
Something you're materializing, your astral materializing to an actual living being.
Have you been able to
superhuman.
Okay.
What's that now?
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's something different. It's superhuman strength. I was picking people up and just throwing them like rag dolls. I was literally killing the person. The one guy, it was like his cousin, I was killing him. I was beating this guy to nothing. These guys actually physically got beat up. They probably seen me after the fact. I physically beat these people up. They're just some brothers. And I'm black. They literally got beat up. The police called my house. 2004. Twice. Norton Shores Police Department and the Muskegon Heights Police Department. Literally. Now that was creepy. I denied all of it to the police. I told them I was at home sleep. They said, Aaron, some people get shot And bad things happen to people sometimes, and they get hurt, and then they just run off. Well, yeah, that's happened before, and then they go die, or they need medical attention. I said, dude, listen, I wasn't there, Aaron, you were there. My friend saw you, Aaron. We all know you, Aaron. There's 32 witnesses or so, 34 witnesses that all knew me. And I seen the whole thing. I was dancing with some girls. The guy got jealous. I went to walk away, and then that's what happened. I was just picking them up, throwing them through the air like they were nothing. It's crazy. So, I mean, these guys went home with actual black eyes and bruises and stuff. The guy who shot me, he come visit me in an old car, come to my house, and he couldn't believe I was alive. He told me I could punch him in the face or do what I had to do. You've been given a second chance. Let it go. It was the weirdest thing in the world. And I didn't want the government involved. I had to lie to the police. I can't be telling them that. At the time, I don't care now. It's been long enough. It's been over 10 years, 11 years.
All right.
You know, I don't care now.
Okay, well, thank you, Aaron, for sharing this.
Yeah.
I think
Well, I tell you, too, though, they had been killing people, I believe, too, for a long time. I didn't realize that they were... I think I was for years, since I was young, after that last abduction when I was 17 from the jump, I was having these dreams. I was attacking and killing people, but I thought they were just action dreams that guys dream about, and I was breaking people's necks, and it felt real. Well, all that whole time, I was actually being activated in the astral, as an astral shell. Looks like a real person. It's me, and I was killing people.
Okay, well, that I guess that probably needs some more investigation.
Yeah, well, it's over now. It's over. It's a done deal, but I'm pretty sure it did happen because it was something to do that they were doing. That was all part of the deal.
And that's probably what was going on there with you in the bar. Maybe something was...
That ended up getting activated on its own because I wanted to go to the bar really bad that night, for real. That's what it was. And that's how I ended up materializing because it was something I wanted to do with my free will that I really wanted. But I felt trapped because I had a new kid and a woman, but I really wanted to go to the bar really, really bad because I didn't get out that much. So I felt trapped. That's why I ended up at the bar regardless, because that's what that was. And that's how that's how I found out what they were doing. That's when I realized I'd been used and I was being manipulated. But once I decided to do something with what they gave me, to do something for myself, part of me separated. That's what part of me separated.
Now, you said that you lost a lot of, let's hear, after they put that lobster thing in you, you gained psychic abilities or some kind of gifts, if you call them that. Mm-hmm. Then later on they went away. Is that true?
Yeah. Yes. I believe what happened was I had a surgery. I was supposed to have a medical procedure, and they kept asking to do a colonoscopy. And then in the room they wanted to do the colonoscopy, there was a window way up there with glass, with a double-sided window where you couldn't see them, but they could see you up there. And they're claiming they were bringing medical students up there, but really they were bringing military up there. And they removed it through a colonoscopy with laser equipment or whatever, how they do it. They pulled it all out.
Remove what?
What's that now?
What do they remove?
They removed implants, digital implants, a pyramid-shaped device, a coil spring, and some other digital type apparatuses that had something to do with the stuff that was put inside of me in '89. Or some of it was even there since I was a kid.
And that's why you think you're a part of Project Ibis, because you have all this...
Yeah, the spring coil was already there when I was little.
Okay.
I've seen it on an X-ray before already, but didn't realize what it was. Blew it off when I was a little kid. I got an X-ray before when I was a teenager. That thing was already in me. You can't have a spring coil. You can't have a spring coil in your chest that's 2.5 inches long and a half an inch wide. You're not going to inhale that through your lung. How the hell did that get in your body? Then there was a pyramid-shaped object and a few other devices and schematic devices in me, like little pieces of digital equipment that were odd looking. They didn't look like they were odd, and the pyramid thing was odd. That's all part of the I don't know what that is, but they were using it against you. That's what they were using. It was part of the project. So it was stuff for me that was already there since I was a child.
Okay.
But they added stuff. They ended up removing it. It's gone. 2006, they took it out.
2000 when?
2006. They left whatever wasn't that wasn't gonna. You know, the different components have to work together to do certain things. They took the components that would stop it from happening, because I can't tell you everything, but there was somebody that I was angry with, and they put a restraining order against me, and the next day the person ended up dying. And I had 30-something cruisers out in front of my house, and they couldn't do anything about it because I was in the house when it happened. And that's when I realized, that's when they decided that they needed to get the stuff out of me, because I could have went anywhere, anytime, and killed anybody on the whole earth. Anywhere, anytime.
I see. So,
probably could have, yeah, if I'd have got away with it.
Do you have any idea why the ETs would have, or the demons, or whoever these beings are, why do you think they put that in you to give you these abilities? I mean, what were they gaining, or what did they think they were going to gain from it?
Well, it looks like to me that it wasn't them. They did what they were told. You hear me?
Yeah, what they were told to do?
They did what they were told because the government was going to use me, since my father was such a great soldier. There were other people were part of this program too. I'm not the only one. I'm not going to tell you what happened. I ran across some classified information. I'm not going to tell you my source or how I ran across it, but I'm not lying to you. There is individuals running around right now that are wanted. The military use them. They can shape. They can bend time like the butterfly effect. They can jump. They can jump anywhere they want. He's got chips in him. He can. He's wanted by the government. The FBI has an active file on him, and they're looking for him right now. I don't know what happened to him. He was a Hispanic-looking male. I'm going to tell you that right now. I could put myself in danger telling you that. Now, I've told you too much right there. But that's the truth.
Okay. Well,
that's the truth. He's alive right now. He can explode your guts in your body.
Like from the movie Men That Stare at Goats?
I don't know. I've never seen it. But I've seen the file. I've seen the file myself, and I was terrified. Wasn't supposed to be seeing it. Somebody got tricked by the FBI. They came to where the information wasn't supposed to be, that leaked out, and they had to give a list of the individuals that had access to where the information was coming from. But I never was approached by the FBI.
All right. Well,
I didn't give any names up. It's just my word against theirs anyways, but it's the truth. Guess what else, too? They're in the movie industry, too, man. I've seen some of them. I was working on the movie The Infiltrator, and there was a guy there that trained the CIA, and he trains people how to kill in the CIA, but yet he was working on a movie. I was there. He was there, man. He's creepy as I don't know what. A tall, Hispanic-looking individual, but he was German and Hispanic at the same time. He's real tall, maybe about 6'6". It's creepy, man. Further demons kept staring at me. I wanted to kill him. He knows all about me because they have the files to go look it up. He knows everything I've been through. So he kept looking at me like he wanted to challenge me. So I'm not going back in the movies anymore after what happened. I just was a person that was just running from some fake DEA agents to the movie. That's all. Just one of the yard workers in the movie Infiltrator that's coming out. We filmed in Tampa Bay, filmed in Tampa off the docks. The last part of the movie, the last 6-day filming of the movie. Majority of it was filmed in the UK.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, it's kind of creepy that they're around. What are you doing there? Why are you there? You know, it's seeing something. You know, if I'm staying out of that now, that was right.
Yeah, it looks like they're trying to groom you for another life path there.
They were, one of them individuals walked up to me and was having a conversation with me for no reason. During the filming of the movie while watching people do stunts, some guy come up to me and started talking to me, and I started telling him about myself a little bit, and I told him I had a sealed file by the FBI. And I knew he was sending by me because he was trying to see what I'd say to him. I could feel it. Like, he knew all about it already. He was in the FBI. The other one's in the CIA. The FBI got access to those files. They're still trying to track down the guy who can jump. Like the one Samuel Jackson was running around chasing them, trying to kill those jumpers.
Yeah.
That guy can do that. One of them, not the guys at the movies, but the guy in real life can do it.
Yeah, what the movie was based off of.
He was in a project where they put chips in his body, connected to his brain, and he's able to do it. They said he went rogue, but they're lying. They just want to neutralize him. Now he's rogue because they tried to neutralize him, and before they could get their hands on him, when they realized he was too dangerous, they wanted to shut him down, but it was too late. Now he's running from them, man, and they're looking for him right now to kill him. I'm not lying to you.
Well,
you be careful with this research. I hope nothing happens to me from telling you that. I don't care. Put it out.
Well, hopefully you'll be. I believe you'll be fine. In this other.
I think so. I've earned my rank from them. Plus, they're going to think I'm crazy anyways. They don't believe half the stuff we say anyways.
Yeah. Well.
They'll listen to the whole conversation and not believe it.
Well, that's right, and
so we're good.
Okay.
Right.
Great. All
right now, if I sat there and told you the street I was on, where I was at, when I accessed the information and all that, it would be another story. I didn't put it down where they can say definitively. Now, if I did that, then I'd probably be looking out the window every other minute. You probably already listened to our conversation.
Right. Well,
I got a sealed file. They know who I am.
Yeah. Well, I think you still probably got some nanotech in you. Probably nowhere near as much, of course, but
yeah.
I don't think.
Well, what happens is you got residual residue your brain picks up that's left over from all the activity. Your brain can mimic what it's been trained to do already. So it can still be tapped into from being involved with it for too long.
And do you think they may try to groom your children? Have you thought of that?
I was worried about it because they kept calling, like the movie industry kept calling and trying to put my daughter in some movies in Miami over and over and over and over and over and over again, and we just started ignoring them. Like they just had to get their hands on her.
Like trying to groom her into become a monarch for the movie industry.
Something like trying. That's what they be doing too, and I'm not having my family involved with none of it. It's over. They're gonna live normal lives.
That's good.
But she keeps like she wants to be in the TV and stuff, and then they were calling like they were half crazy, trying to put her in some kid shows, which I thought that was peculiar. I mean, how many times are you gonna call? Ain't you got enough kids? You're right.
Yeah.
And then they can hypnotize people.
Okay. All right.
Do stuff to them and make them forget. You never know.
Okay. Well, thank you, Aaron.
Okay, yeah. I'll catch back up with you sometimes, man. If I ever come up with some more information, I'll definitely be in touch with you. And I'll let you know what's popping, man. It was great talking to you. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
Right.
I'm glad you listened. You got a heck of a listening span on you, man.
I try. Well,
you got a good listening span. Amazing.
If you would like to learn more information, I'm not talking to you, Aaron, right now. I'm talking to listeners. If you would like to learn more information, please visit my website, supersoldiertalk.com. And this video, of course, will be posted there, along with a lot of other great articles and information resources. So, again, that's supersoldiertalk.com. And once again, I want to thank all the listeners for listening. And, of course, Aaron for sharing this testimony. I think there's probably some other people out there who probably had similar experiences, and maybe something might get triggered, and who knows what might happen.
I really, that thing about, like I told you, one thing I got to say, though, is how, well, this is what I want you to understand. Remember the Ibis and all the Avalon and all these other things they were doing early on? Now they don't need those freaks anymore. They've got the technology now. They've cut the freaks out of the mix now, pretty much. The only thing the freaks are still doing is a genetic experiment. The
So
government pretty much now is doing their own experiments now. They're taking people aboard their crafts. If you've noticed over the last 10 years or so, 15 years, since about 98 to about 2015 right now, most of the experience you're hearing are not involved with graves anymore. The people are just being taken to bases or taken onto crafts, and they're seeing military people dressed in white.
yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on that.
Yeah, but we've seen the change. And we know now they have the technology from
Hello? You there? Well,
Hello?
yeah. You said we saw the change.
Oh, yeah, I was going to tell you, damn it, man, I forgot what I was going to say because I thought you had clicked out on me.
You
what was I
said
going to
they
say?
were taking people on crafts, and you saw the change of how they're being taken to bases now. Well.
Yeah. There was something in particular I was going to tell you.
Okay, well.
It was really important, I forgot.
All right.
It was a main viewpoint. You would have, whoa. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, yeah, the phone keeps going to pick somebody up, so it keeps doing that. I'll remember what it is eventually, and I'll just leave you a message or something and remember to tell you later. I can't remember what it is right now.
Okay.
I just forgot. I forgot, but it was important. Once I remember it, I'll probably just leave you a message if you don't pick up and just tell you so you can put it in your information, because I know you try to put the puzzles together.
Yeah, I tried to.
But the one thing I did tell you, though, is they have the technology now. Now we can just go get this equipment. We can put you to sleep, and we can just put these components in you. And then we can tell you everything you can do, and we'll tell you how to trigger it now. Which is way past what I was capable of, is what I'm telling you, too. Way past. They're way past me.
Yeah, they could start from scratch, create a clone, and then, well, they take a frame of nanotech and then put clone biological material around it.
That's crazy. I mean, they're already high tech, thousands and thousands of years more advanced than anybody. But now that they're doing, what we were just talking, what they can do now is how, a person can jump, how you can just jump from here to where you're at.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I wish I could do that for you. You'd be like, what the fuck?
Well, I think some of us are going to start doing that pretty soon. It's probably going to freak.
Well, we know they can astral travel. That's slower.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like people just going to sleep and then just appearing in your house, sitting in your living room. Somebody told me they saw me just sitting in their house watching television.
Yeah.
And they asked me what I was doing there, and then when they turned around and looked, I was gone. So then I come to their house actually the next day.
Okay, well, I need to go now, so
Okay.
thanks.
Oh, yeah.
Bye-bye.
Oh, okay, hey, you have a good one, man.